Perhaps. Say things like, if it ain't in the book, it ain't real. What are you talking about? You mean to tell me you got the audacity to think that everything God wants you to know can only be found in the Bible? When you worship the Bible more than you worship God, it's called bibliolatry. Somebody may be saying, so what are you saying, Pastor? We don't need the Bible? I'm not saying that you don't need the Bible. I'm saying put it in its proper perspective. You sitting up here talking about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, quoting Ezekiel, Malachi, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You are talking, we preach every week about folk who had no Bible. Moses had no Bible. Joshua had no Bible. Abraham had no Bible. All they had was a word from God they heard and a feeling in their heart. And here we are telling folk to stop trusting what they feel and stop trusting what they hear.
But it is one church, preacher ain't even have no Bible. And criticize us because we have it. I see that you have your Bibles. I don't even know why you brought them. Listen, today I'm going to preach from the cinematic text, The Color Purple.
So many lies in one soundbite. To take the book that we learned what idolatry was and to say that using it and as if you can overuse it is idolatry is a big stretch, my name. Bibliolatry? How about filiolatry? Is that something? That's a big stretch, my guy. But hey, it makes them feel good and they're giving them money. So look at you winning. Let's talk about what the Bible actually says. Let's go New Testament for a second, then we'll go Old. How about that? The Bible that Moses and all them read. The Bible that Moses wrote and the rest of them quoted and used as how to get. Go. All right. 2 Timothy 3:16. All scripture is given by the inspiration or is God breathed and is profitable for doctrine, for correction, for reproof, for instruction in righteousness, that the servant or the man of God may be mature, perfect, thoroughly furnished, and equipped for all good works. Old Testament, Psalm 119:9. Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? How does he do it? By taking heed thereto according to thy word, by grabbing hold of what God said. Now, this is Old Testament, so there's no Bible? Joshua 1:8. Here it is. Moses' servant, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou observe to do according to all that is written therein. And then shalt thou make thy way prosperous, and then you shall have good success. How about Jesus when he was tempted in the wilderness? What did he quote? He was fasting 40 days, 40 nights, and Satan said, hey, command those stones to be made bread. Jesus said, Matthew 4:4, for it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Where did he get that from? Is he quoting scripture from the Old Testament? Deuteronomy 8:3, Moses said to his people, to the children of Israel,
grace and peace. Dunamis, you hearing this? Most excellent, you hearing this?
Hey, grace and peace, yeah? You breaking down that truth.
All caps. Say things like, if it ain't in the book, it ain't real. What are you talking about? You mean to tell me you got the audacity to think that everything God wants you to know can only be found in the Bible? When you worship the Bible more than you worship God, it's called bibliolatry. Somebody may be saying, so what are you saying, Pastor? We don't need the Bible? I'm not saying that you don't need the Bible. I'm saying put it in its proper perspective. You sitting up here talking about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, quoting Ezekiel, Malachi, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You are talking, we preach every week about folk who had no Bible. Moses had no Bible. Joshua had no Bible. Abraham had no Bible. All they had was a word from God they heard and a feeling in their heart. And here we are telling folk to stop trusting what they feel and stop trusting what they hear.
But it is one church, preacher ain't even have no Bible. And criticize us because we have it. I see that you have your Bibles. I don't even know why you brought them. Listen, today I'm going to preach from the cinematic text, The Color Purple.
So many lies in one soundbite. To take the book that we learned what idolatry was and to say that using it and as if you can overuse it is idolatry is a big stretch, my name. Bibliolatry? How about filiolatry? Is that something? That's a big stretch, my guy. But hey, it makes them feel good and they're giving them money. So look at you winning. Let's talk about what the Bible actually says. Let's go New Testament for a second, then we'll go Old. How about that? The Bible that Moses and all them read. The Bible that Moses wrote and the rest of them quoted and used as how to get. Go. All right. 2 Timothy 3:16. All scripture is given by the inspiration or is God breathed and is profitable for doctrine, for correction, for reproof, for instruction in righteousness, that the servant or the man of God may be mature, perfect, thoroughly furnished, and equipped for all good works. Old Testament, Psalm 119:9. Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? How does he do it? By taking heed thereto according to thy word, by grabbing hold of what God said. Now, this is Old Testament, so there's no Bible? Joshua 1:8. Here it is. Moses' servant, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou observe to do according to all that is written therein. And then shalt thou make thy way prosperous, and then you shall have good success. How about Jesus when he was tempted in the wilderness? What did he quote? He was fasting 40 days, 40 nights, and Satan said, hey, command those stones to be made bread. Jesus said, Matthew 4:4, for it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Where did he get that from? Is he quoting scripture from the Old Testament? Deuteronomy 8:3. Moses said to his people, to the children of Israel, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Hey, you see a thing there? It's written, kind of a thread here. Then Satan tried to get Jesus in his feelings. Since you're hungry, you see, he focused on his feelings. You're feeling hungry, right? Struggling, right? Throw yourself off the bridge. Throw yourself off the pinnacle of this mountain. Jesus says again, it is written, thou shalt not test the Lord thy God. Last test, I will give you all the kingdoms of this world, homie. I got you. I'll satisfy all your needs, your desires, your wants, your cravings, the whole Nina, da 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 da. Satan offered Jesus all the kingdoms of the world if Jesus would bow down and worship him. And Jesus said, away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Sounds like the law. Sounds like the book that God gave to Moses and Moses wrote down. See, we have all these things because they were written down. You understand? That's how it becomes a book. That's how we got this thing called the Torah, the Pentateuch, the law, and it was built off of that. That is the foundation. Then we have the book of the prophets, and we got the poetry, the major, minor prophets. We got all these different dynamics that create this one book that come from all these different people who were in different courses of life, and it comes together. And God says, this is what I want to use to speak to my people because I am God and I change not. So I'm going to speak my mind through these people, through these circumstances, through these situations, and they'll be right now. It'll be a present thing where the Bible says he's a present help in the time of trouble. Present help. How do you know what your present help is like? Because the scriptures reveal the character of God. It reveals the plan of God. It reveals the purpose of God, and it highlights his will in your life. So if you leave the scriptures, your way will not be prosperous, and you cannot plan to have good success. Psalm 1 says, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of God, and in his law does he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by rivers of water that brings forth fruit in its season. And your leaf also will not wither, and whatsoever you do will prosper. But if you follow your feelings, you will get the same results you've been getting your whole life. I challenge you, don't listen to this foolery. God bless him. I hope he repents and gets it right, because that is false prophecy. And that is the spirit of the Antichrist, sir. And you're pushing people away from the living word of God. In the beginning was the word was with God. The word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. The word is what God uses to create. It is his creative power. It is who he is. So if you dismiss scripture, you dismiss who he is. That's dangerous.
Well, what are your thoughts, bro? What are your thoughts? Come to the microphone. Mute myself for a second.
Nah, well, the brother, he raised some good points now that we just can't throw the Bible out, because otherwise we might as well just dig groves and, light fires and all that kind of stuff to see what the spirits are saying. You know what I'm saying? That it seems that Jesus has been a greater precedent than the patriarchs, to where it's not just what communing, but it's also communing in what has been established in the word. That's where the faith is built upon now. And then from that, what is Jesus established in his word that we should follow?
I agree 100%. Hopefully this thing is not echoing. You can see the screen right here.
Yeah, but hold on, before you play it, we got to find out something about people's views on one thing.
Go ahead, brother.
So type one in the chat. Is a Talmud credible? Is a Talmud credible?
Good question. I'm coming right back. I'm turning this up. Good question.
So we got to see if the Talmud is credible. If not, what's the Talmud used for? So put in the chat, what's the Talmud used for? So just the one, is the Talmud credible?
We're for majority yet.
Yeah, I'm waiting. All right, so 2, nope. May I should define what I mean. Can it be used? No, maybe not for maybe not for doctrine, but for history, to help understand the people at the time, all that kind of stuff. No, I'm not talking about referencing Jesus, I understand, right? But I understand how Jews thought, how Israelites thought, the progression of thought. Can it be used for that? Or the Talmud can't be used at all. The Talmud is just trash, should never be used. I see Gentile rabbinic commentaries will have historical truths. And yes, sister, as a historical document. Talmud is the written version of what we're doing on now. Talking about biblical interpretation. Yeah. Okay, Edom saying Talmud's tradition of man. I see some of the believers. Where's some of the Israelites at? Fervent charity. What's the Talmud good for? Should it be used? How should we place the Talmud? In what kind of category? What kind of book is it? I think folks are trying to see where we're going with this. All right. Well, let's just let it play, and we'll see folks are saying if they hold to those same views. Because we heard on here people bash the Talmud. The Talmud's this, is wicked, all that kind of stuff, right? Not saying everything in there is proper and pure for the Christian believer. But at the same time, how should we properly place? I wrote them examining the development of Jewish thought and history. Okay, yeah, bet. A book of tradition, but okay, for certain just traditions and sayings, that's all the Talmud is. Because I've heard some folks in here, I ain't gonna say it. They're a little more rabbinical than they say they are. That's all I'm gonna say. Even though they say the Talmud is one thing, on the other hand, it seems like how they present certain arguments, they hold the Talmud to a certain high degree. All right. JJ, okay. Okay, Spiritual says Talmud, really? All right. We're going to find out. I see JJ. It should be used just as Josephus used. Good for history, understanding Jewish mindset at that time. All right. That's the most excellent. Definitely folks are following rabbis. Somehow, Babylonian, Jerusalem, or Palestinian, doesn't matter. The Talmud in general, like how should be viewed? Because that's something that comes up to where it sees that folks are actually following the Talmud or Talmud traditions, not just like in doxology and worship, but in terms of how they view certain things. And is that right and exact? Well, I guess we can just let it play.
Grace and peace, shalom alaikum, and I'm Covi, and I'm actually kind of still at work. Everybody went home for the day, but I decided to stay after and record this video because, man, something happened the other day that I just felt needed to be addressed. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into it so that way this video could be shown and maybe we could talk about it and figure out what happened. So let's start it out, right? The other day on Berean TV, an oppressor who works for the man by locking up my and your brothers and sisters named Officer Bruce. He used a source proving Esau's identification and destruction by way of a video that this guy Benaiah Israel used. I think a lot of people know who he is. Anyways, it was said that this source was a Jewish source by a Jewish author proving that Esau is Rome and Christianity with absolutely, quote, no way to get around it, right? This source, there's no way to get around it. That's what he said. So I found this statement and this claim to be extremely odd. So I decided to get the book myself and to see what's up. And man, I'm glad I did. And you are not going to believe what I found. Check this out. Now, before I get into my findings, I just wanted to share with you the source that they decided to use. It's a book by John Allen. Both Bruce and Benaiah use it, and it's called Modern Judaism. It's about 466 pages, and it's available online for free. If any of y'all want to, just hit me up. I'll send you the link. Y'all can go check out all of this stuff yourself. Now, before I get into my findings, I want to watch the section of Bereans Live where Bruce is co-signing Benaiah and this book. Just want to show that real quick. There's a section right here.
Coming up right after this. Right there. Stop right there. Stop.
Of the
Stop right there.
rebellious house of Judah.
Stop right there, Brian. Now,
What
hold
I
on.
really wanted to play it. Thank you.
Hold on, I want someone to read that if they can, because I'm on my phone. Somebody read that word, the second paragraph where it says who Esau is, and it's from modern Judaism, tribes, customs, and so forth.
Roger, you see all what Bruce and I wish the handlers would do all of this to try and get to some stuff. We don't pull it all out because Covi ain't going for none of this. Gentlemen, you drive and you can see that Esau descendants are the subject.
Hold on, let me see can I read it. Let me see can I read it.
Let me.
And you catch the crooks. Look, you out here. You catching. You doing what work you doing? What work you doing right now?
Okay, let me read it. Let me read it.
But that's all from the 1800s. Just to let you
Okay,
know.
right. Okay, right. So Esau descendants are the.
I want you to pay attention to this part real quick. His it's kind of a little blurry on the screen, but I'm going to pull up the pages in a little bit, and it's going to be a little easier to see. But I just want you to pay attention to how he reads this part. All right, follow along. Esau's descendants. Follow along.
Of the subjects of extensive tradition to which the rabbis with everything which should wonder and to say who may have defined authentic history and so forth. So, okay, first down to the second.
Skipped all that, right? Just went straight to first. I think he skipped it all because he had never read it before. He simply took it from his handler and went with it, right? So I know he didn't read that part before. Once we get into it, you're going to see why. But then he keeps on going. So we're just going to go with it.
Paragraph, that's what I want. Hey, take off the because it's in my way. Take off that. Okay, first, that descendants of Esau, sworn enemies of the descendant of Jacob, even to the end of the world, were the first a small nation inhabiting Mount Seir and the adjacent country. Keep going. Temple and destroyed the temple by Titus Vespasian. That is the present day, professing the religions of Jesus and Nazareth, which they were the first of all nations to embrace. They hold the dominion over all Europe. Esau detaining in captivity his brother Joseph, at least as far as regards to the tribe of Judah, till the Messiah, Ben David, shall appear. Secondly, that the prophecies of the prophets against Edom.
So we went on to the second part, and this is the one that he's really going to focus on. But both him and Benaiah didn't keep going. They stopped right here. But again, I have the pages, so I'm going to show you guys. It's pretty interesting. So keep going a little bit, just to hear some of his claims after he finishes reading.
Esau, Seir, and the city of Edom, especially them of Judah, Jeremiah and Obadiah. I'm trying to read it. Hold on, y'all. Especially them of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Obadiah have yet received their full accomplishment, and have not received their full accomplishment, for that the house of Esau have experienced some peculiar judgment of God on the account, and some peculiar judgment of God on the account of the injury of different periods of time, and that is afflicted on Israel. Yet the final vengeance account of that last greatest injury, the descendants of the second temple of Titus, and the transportation of the Jews into captivity, in which they will, unless they, I can't see that last word, or purposely detained. So anyway, that particular source is modern Judaism, is culture, and so forth. That's the 1800 as what's the name source. The Jews knew who Esau was.
The Jews knew who Esau was, right? Jews wrote this, and they're writing who Esau is. Remember that.
And they were Rome, and it clearly say Esau is Rome, and they were the European nations, and they're the one who put Judah into captivity. And so there's no spiritualizing, Elder Green. This is a source that many scholars have used.
Did you hear that? This is a source that many scholars have used. Now, I don't know if Bruce or anybody else know that we can check that. There is something called Google Scholar that allows you to do just such a thing. So let me go back to this. Modern Judaism by John Allen. I went, oh, wrong one. Do I have it? Oh, okay. These are the 2 pages, right? These are the 2 pages he was looking at, but I wanted to show you this first. I went into Google Scholar and I typed out Modern Judaism by John Allen. Now, Google Scholar tells you every time somebody has cited this particular source, right? And if you look here on the arrow, it shows that it's only been cited 4 times. I don't know if 4 really qualifies as many scholars, right? But in addition to that, because everybody has Google Scholar, something that a lot of people don't have, though, unless you're in school, is what's called EBSCO. It's sort of like an online database for all kinds of material, books, journal articles, what have you. John Allen's name didn't even get a hit. So it's not on there. Nobody used it except for these 4 people. And I went into this, and 2 of them are other people reviewing his book. So it's not like a lot of people have actually used this. But I want to go ahead and go back, right? I want to go back so we can see everything that Bruce was talking about. This is all that. Now, if you'll notice here, it says this is where he got down to Seir and the adjacent country. Skipped all this part because it wasn't actually on the screen, and started here at Titus Vespasian, and then went down and again just stopped here. I just wanted to show you that I have all this, right? I took screenshots, I sent it to a lot of people, wanted to see what they thought, and just really wanted to get into it. So the next part was, so you can go back to it, Bruce. Okay, so so let me go forward a little bit. Let me see if I can go forward in this. Stream.
Over the years, and there's countless others. And I'm telling you, the Jews know it, the small hats, they know it. You know, the untouchables, they know it. And their scholars know it. Esau is Rome. They are the ones.
I know that he was a little
Green
more
was trying to
color. Now, after
say this is a little weird. Elder Green actually knew what was up with this, but I'm not going to get into that.
I don't color this. It goes all over the place. So now, with that being said, like Jordan asked a key question earlier.
A little bit more.
When I went to the land of Edom, I don't know them personally by name. A lot of these fall under conservative orthodox.
There we go.
Get yourself some cooking. When you said you can get some things, so no, you got your whole. You can't get nothing. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I got sources here that predates 1st century Mishnah. I don't know them personally by name. A lot of these fall under conservative orthodox. They don't believe in Jesus.
What year is that? Are they in the 1900s? Elder Green, I'm trying to tell you, you got to go to the old sources. The new sources. Okay, look, we got to go to the 1800s and below, because well, here's the thing.
The Talmud was almost 400 BC to 400 AD.
Well, you know the Talmud. That's the Pharisees who wanted God to rebuke, because we're not even supposed to be going by the Talmud. That's a wicked. That is so wicked. And the Talmud is so wicked, Elder Green, that they call you the Messiah, who true believers in Christ.
Okay, so he says that we're not supposed to be using the Talmud because it's a wicked book. Granted, it says some crazy stuff in there, but I mean, I don't know about wicked. But regardless, Bruce says it's a wicked book. You hear him say that all the time. It's either the wicked Roman Catholic Church or the wicked Talmud, right? That's what he says always. It's amazing what I found out, especially knowing his position on the Talmud. And so let's see if I should keep going to this next one. That's stream. So this is all the stuff, right? This is what they read. This is the parts that they read. He tried to read this, couldn't read it, skipped down, went here, read this part. I wonder if y'all can see this little arrow. If not, it's cool. Skipped half of the top of 225, read the second half of the paragraph, and then read the first half part of the paragraph at the end of 225. What's interesting about this is here on the next page. I actually have the whole thing. See, 224, 225, and then a continuation to 226. Typically what happens whenever an author decides to cite something from somebody else, they'll use a footnote, right? You'll see little numbers everywhere. However, the author here didn't use footnotes, he used symbols, a lot of crosses and asterisks and all kinds of things. But this was the main part that I actually thought they would use more of it, but they didn't. Either way, all this information is cited here. You'll see at the end of House of Esau, there's a little asterisk, right? And on that asterisk, if you look down a little further where the footnote is supposed to be, it has a source on where the author got this information. Remember, the Talmud is wicked, but if it proves your point, I guess it's okay to use, because all this information that was used for this particular chapter is from the Talmud and the Jewish Encyclopedia, as Elder Green was trying to bring out. This is all rabbinic sources used for this. Why would he do that, right? Why would he use Talmudic materials for this video? Because he did not know. Neither him, and I seriously doubt Benaiah Israel actually read this book. They just used a little piece that shows the destruction of Edom or who their possible descendants could be, and they ran with it, not knowing it was completely just wrong. They were wrong about this. But I can't blame Bruce 100%, right? Because he's just a follower. He's just, if this was equated to the church, he'd just be someone in the pews. We should really look at what the handler said, the one who put out the video. So I also got that keyed up. I just wanted to show, let me see if I can close this out. I just wanted to show what also Benaiah put and how he used it. And this one's a little bit shorter. I just want to show you how he used it as well. Now check this out.
Only did writers know that the children of the rebellious house of Judah were sent into slavery and were scattered to the four corners of the earth. They also knew who held the children of Judah captive. And for that, let's read a quick reference from Modern Judaism, from a book that was written in the 1800s, and reads, first, that the descendants of Esau, the sworn enemies of the descendants of Jacob, even to the end of the world, were at first a small nation, inhabiting Mount Seir and the adjacent country, contiguous to the land of Canaan, that they were easily confined within their own limits, as long as the Israelites enjoyed a great and formidable empire in Canaan. But that after the powerful republic of the 12 tribes was destroyed by the Assyrians and the Babylonians, they wonderfully increased in numbers and strength, extended their dominion towards the west, spread their colonies far and wide, subjugated Italy, founded Rome and the Roman Empire, at length entirely overturned the Jewish state, which had been restored after the termination of the Babylonian captivity. The second temple being destroyed by Titus Vespasian, and that in the present day, professing the religion of Jesus of Nazareth, which they were the first of all nations to embrace. They hold the dominion over all Europe, Esau detaining in captivity his brother, Jacob, at least as far as regards the tribe of Judah, till his Messiah, Ben David, or Yeshua, shall appear. So during the time of the 1800s, these writers wrote that the descendants of Esau detained in captivity his brother Jacob, at least as far as regards the tribe of Judah. And just to read a little bit more, it reads, secondly, that the prophecies of the prophets against Esau, Edom, Seir, and the cities of Edom, especially those of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Obadiah, have not yet received their full accomplishment, for that thou, the house of Esau, has experienced some particular judgments of God on account of the injuries at different periods of time and afflicted upon Israel. Yet the final vengeance on account of that last and greatest injury, the destruction of the second temple by Titus, and listen, the transportation of the Jews into captivity, in which they are still most opprobriously detained, is yet impending over it to be executed in the time of the Messiah. All right. Well, as you can see, this reference points to.
Hey, wait, hold on, pause Covi real quick. Jordan, you rock with some of this, right? About Obadiah and Edom not fully being destroyed. They still coming. It's still in effect, right? We just get in the temperature of the room. Who still rocks with this? So with the Talmud, we got a viewpoint. With the view of Edom and that kind of stuff, are y'all still rocking with what's being said as fact? All right. Oh, God. Go ahead, Ray. Edom can be saved. Politician Jordan.
It sounds like checkmate, right? Doesn't that sound like checkmate? It sounds like, it sounds like they're right. It sounds like the Esau and his descendants have oppressed the Israelites and sent them into bondage and captivity, and they're still there, right? That's what this says. They both stopped right here. But again, I have the next page, and I just wanted to show y'all. And I show y'all how it was referencing the Talmud and whatnot. And I just thought it was a little bit interesting, right? I thought it was a little bit interesting. So what I decided to do was I decided to go back to that first paragraph, that first page that Bruce tried to read, fumbled over, and then just skipped over. And B'nai Israel didn't even address, because this makes all the difference in the world, right? So let me see if I have a close-up of it. Check it out. So this is the page in question. This is the very first one, right? And I don't know if y'all can see it. I hope y'all can see it. If not, I think my next slide is a little bit closer. So I want you to pay attention to this first paragraph, and I think the next slide is highlighted. Let's see. It is. So check this out, right? And just so you know, if you can see, Bruce and B'nai Israel started reading at first. First, the descendants of Esau's sworn enemies. But if you go just a paragraph right before, look at this, and I highlighted it for you. Esau's descendants are the subjects of extensive traditions in which the rabbis, with effrontery, and I had to define this because I don't know the definition of all words, so I had to define it. Effrontery means a lack of respect or extremely rude, right? So Esau's descendants are the subject of extensive traditions in which the rabbis, with a lack of respect or extremely rude, at which we should wonder in any other men, have set defiance. My phone's ringing. My bad. They have set at defiance. Defiance means an open resistance or refusal to abide by the rules, right? So they have set at defiance all authentic history and accurate chronology. What that says is the rabbis were they were not impartial. They did not like the Edomites, so therefore they wrote about them in a bad way. In addition to that, in order to make their point, they completely disregarded all authentic history and any form of accurate chronology. Right now, check this out. This is the dagger for, this is just unbelievable. Look at this next part. These representations, the fallacy of which will be too obvious to require being pointed out, may be briefly comprised under the following heads. The author is saying that these representations that he's about to go into are so crazy that he doesn't even have to point it out. It's so obviously false, he doesn't even have to bring it up. He must have never met Bruce and Benaiah, because some people, it's not too obvious for them. So I just wanted to show you this, right? I wanted to show you this. And just in case, look, you see a footnote here at the bottom. And in case you're wondering about the footnote at the bottom, which you should be, you always trace the footnotes. I looked at that too. And guess where that's from? Rabbinical literature, or the traditions of the Jews, the Talmud, and other mystical writings. Notice here that the footnote says Stechlin, volume 2, right? And the source, author, Stechlin, 2 volumes, volume 2. Right away, you can see both of the sources that are being used are Talmudic sources, but it's a wicked book. So I don't know, you figure it out. I don't know, I don't get it. So at this point, I could not believe my eyes, right? I couldn't believe my eyes, nor can I believe anything else Bruce says. So I went back, right? I went back to the book, scrolled all the way up to the very first page, and read the whole thing for myself. In one day, I read all 466 pages and took screenshots, annotated, highlighted, sent it to some people, and just, wow. Wow. I got some of the pages here that I just want to show you. So the first thing I want to show you, and again, if that first paragraph wasn't bad enough to show that Bruce and Benaiah don't know what they're talking about, because the author lays out in the first paragraph that what he's about to say is just so ridiculously false, it's not even worth bringing up. Like, you should just know how crazy it is. But just to prove the point even further, I want to show you something. Look at this. Not even 6 pages into the book, and we're still in the preface, not even 6 pages into the book, it goes exactly 180 degrees from what Bruce and Benaiah were trying to say. It is completely opposite of what they were trying to say. Remember, Bruce claimed that this is a Jewish source explaining how the prophecies concerning Esau and Edom haven't come to pass, according to Bruce and Benaiah. But look at this. I don't know if it zooms in. No, it doesn't zoom in, but look at this. Look at the highlighted portions. This is about the author. He is a firm believer in Christianity himself. Right off the bat, it already disproves Bruce's theory of him being a Jew. No, he's a Christian. He's a firm believer in Christianity himself. The author cannot but contemplate modern Judaism as an awful delusion. The prediction of the prophecies appeared to him to be strikingly fulfilled, not only in the dispersion, sufferings, and preservation of the Jews, but also in the moral darkness which is enveloped in their mind. In the preface, it's saying how the author's a Christian and he's critiquing the words and teachings of Talmudic rabbis. And he believes that all the prophecies concerning Edom and Esau are to be strikingly fulfilled, not only in the dispersion, which is the main thing, because they were saying that, Israelites are dispersed now. That completely goes against what they were saying. The author goes on further to condemn the rabbis. Over here, it says, against the rabbis, many of whom the author cannot but regard as corrupt seducers of their brethren, as contrivers and promoters rather than victims of the popular deception. If I didn't know any better, I would say people like Bruce and Benaiah are maybe actual Israelites, because these rabbis, they have the same spirit. They're willing to lie and disregard actual history just to promote their own agenda. It's unbelievable, right? It's unbelievable. Now, going on, because I wanted to make this short, but it's already real long. So going on, I read through the entire book. Like I said, 466 pages. If you're interested in the teachings of the Talmud, I recommend you go watch it too, because or I recommend you go read it too, because this book, it's a critique. It's a big critique of Talmudic teachings of the rabbis. That's why all the footnotes are Talmud related. I guess this observation was just completely missed by Bruce and Benaiah, though, because they didn't put the two and two together. But chapter 12 is the one that really concerns us, and the one that Bruce and Benaiah were talking about. So I'm just going to go straight over to chapter 12, and then we'll go on a couple more things from there. But chapter 12 is concerning Esau's descendants. Now, remember, this book is a critique of Talmudic teachings. It becomes more apparent the more you read. Now, look how this chapter, if you see up here, it says chapter 10 and goes into the traditions concerning persons mentioned in the Old Testament: Adam and Eve, Abraham and Sarah, Joseph, Sarah, Moses, Og, king of Bashan, David, Solomon, Elijah, and then Esau's descendants, right? So this is where it's going to come from. Now, look at this. Look at this. The traditions concerning persons mentioned in the Old Testament are numerous and extensive. The alterations and enlargements of the scriptural narratives and the entire editions manufactured by the fertile invention of the rabbis would fill volumes. The present chapter will exhibit a few specimens of these fables. The author is straight up saying that the things that he's about to say in this chapter are crazy fables from the rabbis. And you got Bruce and Benaiah promoting it like it's the gospel truth. You can tell they didn't read this source. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. He's talking about the lies of the rabbis, and they're saying, man, it's such a good book. You can't get around it. I don't know, man. I think both of them need to learn how to read or something. But like I said, it's a good book concerning Talmudic teachings and the critiques of them. And it's a really good book to read if you're a Christian and you want to know. But the section on the fables taught as truth by the rabbis concerning Esau's descendants that Bruce and Benaiah read are 12 pages into the chapter. And you remember how the section starts. So let's go to those pages, right? 224, 225, and 226. Remember, the author's already calling them fables. But a further explanation and reiteration of these views on Esau, it tells you that it's straight whack. It's straight whack. And it tells you again that it's so fallacious that it should be too obvious to require being pointed out. Again, must have not met some of these people like Bruce and Benaiah. But since Bruce and Benaiah co-signed this truth, let's see some other interesting things in this very same book. So check this out. Going a little further, pages 231 and 232 in this book of truth give us the location of the lost tribes. And guess what? It's not in America. Read it, pause it, go get the book for yourself and look into it. It tells you all the tribes and where they are.
Y'all can hear me. Grace and peace. Keys, what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on, Berean? I got a quick question about Edom. In
Wait a minute.
in
Do me
the
a
book.
favor. Do me a favor. Dunamis, read that screen. Read that right there before Keys go. I'll mute myself.
If Edomites exist today, then so do Hittites, Jebusites, Philistines, etc.
What do you think about that, most excellent Jordan? You think Philistines exist today, or some nations are destroyed? You think the Philistines and the Hittites and the Jebusites are alive today somewhere? Type of one if y'all believe that.
But then,
One.
if we're going with that, Berean, the Philistines became into the what's the group? Hannibal, North Africa. The Phoenicians. The Phoenicians. The Philistines they evolved into the Phoenicians. So then it's kind of like then to the people don't evolve when they migrate or conquer more land, do they stay as the group they are?
No, the video's not over. We're gonna play the rest. I wanted to see if Keys wanted to ask something to Covi concerning what he heard so far. Before
Yeah, I just wanted to know. In the book of Malachi, it states that the Most High will have indignation against Edom forever. In the book of Malachi, what changed his mind? If that, because in the way it's being explained, it kind of seems like that's not the case no more. And if it's not the case no more, what changed his mind?
Covi might have what chapter and verse you saying, Keys?
I think Malachi. I'm having a brain fart right now. I believe it's 1-4 or 4-1, something like that.
Okay, but before that, Keys, what are your thoughts on what he's presented so far? Alan's asking a question: is what Covi brought up wrong? Yes or no? Specifically with the topic at hand.
I just came back onto the room because I'm at work, but I just wanted to ask that question because I just caught I caught bits and pieces of it, so I'm gonna have to actually go back and rewind the live. If you can give me maybe about 20 minutes, I'll rewind it, catch back up,
Okay.
and if I'm still allowed to, comment on that topic, if it's still around at that time, I'll do so. But I can't really say because I've been in and out because I'm at work getting off.
I understand, Keys. Yeah. Now that's just so we don't get too far off, because we can get into the Esau Edomite discussion, and then miss the topic at hand. So we just dealing with the source that Bruce and the video that Bruce played from Midnight Israel. How does that source stand? Is it used properly and things of that nature?
Okay, I was just asking a question because from the bits and pieces that I kind of saw within the comments, and also like just a couple portions of what was being said by Covi. But if maybe if I can just rewind it, maybe about, I don't know if it's 5 or 10 minutes into the live.
Yeah, go ahead, Keith. Yeah, the floor is open. When you want to jump back on if you can.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Berean.
Yeah, I just give a few moments where Breen might have a little technical difficulties. Well, what are y'all thoughts so far about what's being said? Topic 1, if you agree. Topic 2, if not, Kobe's off. So we just got to have this clear about what's going on, what are the facts of the matter, dealing with the source. We all talk time and time again about vetting sources, see what it says, going deep into it. Does Kobe have a proper metric to do so? Topic 1, if you've been rocking with Kobe so far, or let me rephrase that. Topic 1, if you're rocking with information. Topic 2, if not, it seems off. All right, I'm seeing one. Kobe's talking about all I did was actually read the book. Most excellent. Kobe simply reading the source Bruce Brown brought out. He can't be right or wrong. He's simply reading the source. Yeah. All right. See, Jordan put in the super chat. All right, we back. So Edith said, what are my thoughts on the video so far? I mean, like Covi's saying, all he's doing is reading the source. And he's checking the claims. So it's not anything like a personal attack on anyone. It's more so just like, are we reading this correctly? So far what I'm seeing is it seems like due diligence. You know what I'm saying? Like when someone comes around, they'll make a claim. How do we verify the claim? And all the claims that were made from terms about how Bruce said that many scholars use this, we can see how many people actually using the source, or if it's being used at all. You know what I'm saying? To even the fact about dealing with in terms of the author, who what's his belief system, all that kind of stuff. So it seems like he's letting the source speak for himself, like how we do in scripture. It's exegete. All Covi's doing is just exegeting the text. Go ahead, Brian. Yeah, I think I don't know if I want to jump on. But unless Brian, you want me to share the video? Mm-hmm. All right. Hold on. Let me. All right. Well, wait. I see JT Mack super chat. Thank you, JT Mack. Pseudo Bruce got some explaining to do. He needs to explain why he didn't read his source as if he did. How can we use a Talmud as a source when the Talmud is wicked? Please explain. And that's why we asked the question earlier. How do we view the Talmud? What do we do with it? You know what I'm saying? Is a Talmud just a book that has no intrinsic value at all? It has some historical value? What? Or do we just pick and choose? Because it seems like there's a little pick and choosing going on in terms of dealing with the Talmud. I like what the brother said earlier. He said that the Talmud was used to show Jewish thought, progression over time, things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? In the fact of certain commentary and certain passages, right? So we can see what the thinking is and how certain things can be viewed. That maybe not be as explicit in the text. But at the same time, we have it in a certain place. We don't just say it's inspired and things of that nature. Yeah, Bruce probably watching. But that's where now it comes down to, should the Talmud really be used as a source to deal with these things? And for those who bash the Talmud, is it right to use the Talmud in any kind of way? Because if like Bruce out the book, but the book is using Talmud as a source. So now should the book be thrown out then? Yeah, some powers, it denies Christ, but at the same time, it denies Christ. But I'm saying we're not using that necessarily as theology per se. We're using it as history or the thought process. You know what I'm saying? How did they view these things at the time? Because there are folks who come in here and make certain claims about Israelite thought, things of that nature, but when you read sources at the time, they didn't think like that, or they did think like how certain Christians show certain texts. All right, there goes Covi. All right, grace and peace. Shabbat, shalom, brother.
Shalom alaikum. How you doing? What's going on, Berean?
Doing good.
He's still breaking up there.
I'm breaking up?
No. I'm talking about Berean. He's still coming in and out, but at least he allowed me to get in.
Hey, Berean, you want me to share my screen so that way we can All right. Let me just share my screen. But so Covi, how much?
So just let me see. I had it up. Let me see. Probably just like the last at 23:59. So just like at 24. It's like the last 5 minutes, but it's like a really good point. So I'm hoping people catch this.
Hold on, I got the slide. Put in the back chat the presentation.
Oh, the slides?
No, the presentation, the actual video.
Okay, I can share my screen and do it.
All right. But Covi, I'm asking you, how much are they paying you, brother? The Jesuits.
Oh, man, how much are they paying? If I was getting paid, I wouldn't have had to record this video right after work. You know what I mean? If anything,
sometimes I hear you saying the question's not mute. The question is that there's certain times where we have people can be very fundamentalist with sources.
Mm-hmm.
To where if like with the Talmud, the Talmud's just wicked, all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. But then later on they use the Talmud as a source. So it kind of goes against the whole pretense of what they're showcasing. Go ahead, Covi.
I'm sorry, I've been coughing up a little bit. But what I think is this. Whenever like Bruce says, I've been studying the Talmud, it's wicked and I know what's in there. No, he's not. If he was studying it, he would know that a lot of his talking points are from the Talmud. A lot of the talking points of the Israelites are from the Talmud. They are secretly, and I say secretly, it's not actually a secret because the information is out there for anybody to look at and read. But I say secretly because they know they tell their people constantly, don't read that book. Meanwhile, they are force feeding them information and talking points from the Talmud. Why? Because Jews have always had it out for Christians, and Jews wrote the Talmud. It's all anti-Christian, therefore it's very easy to use. All you got to do is, slap a black face on it, and it's good to go.
And even not FS Cherry, well, who's the other guy? Crowdy? Crowdy was a Mason, and a lot of them had Talmud, rabbis who had the Talmud from the beginning.
I'm sorry, y'all can hear me right now?
Yeah.
Do me a favor, Covi, pull up your screen in case something happened to me again.
All right, let me see if I can get it.
I think we were the last 15, 12 minutes?
Yeah, a little something. Yeah. Let me see. Boom.
Yeah, so that's all we're trying to say. If folks are using this as a credible source, if folks are using it to even teach doctrine under the table, then what do we do?
You just read it yourself, read it yourself so you can know what's coming from where. And like I said, this last 5 minutes, it shows a very popular breakdown or interpretation or whatever you want to call it that a lot of people use, that you'll be surprised at the at the source where it comes from. So I'm gonna play it real quick. Cool?
Yeah, go ahead.
So check this out. Going a little further, pages 231 and 232 in this book of truth give us the location of the lost tribes. And guess what? It's not in America. Read it, pause it, go get the book for yourself and look into it. It tells you all the tribes and where they are. And not one of them is America. Should we believe this? Because it's from a Jewish source and they know and they... Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, before I get out of here, I want to bring up one more part. Check this out. And this is like the final thing that I thought was pretty interesting, and it concerns a lot more people than just Bruce and Benaiah. The final thing that I want to leave you with is the doctrine of Gentile servitude in the kingdom that is often spoken about by some of these more racist leaning Israelites. The author speaks on this as well, right? Now, let me read this highlighted portion. That the Christians and other nations whose lives shall be spared by Israel shall build houses and cities for them, and shall cultivate them, their fields, and plant their vineyards, and all without any expectation of reward. For that they will also voluntarily offer them all their property, and the princes and nobles will be their subjects and servants. But that Israelites shall be arrayed in sumptuous garments and walk about like anointed priests, consecrated to the Lord. There it is, servitude in the kingdom. They're going to get slaves, right? A lot of these Israelites say that this is what's going to happen. They don't know exactly where the teaching comes from, but they just know this to be true, right? This is truth. They love this stuff. So where do you think they got this from? Any guesses? Any guesses as to the source? You probably won't even need 3 chances. Check this out. This is at the bottom of it. Because as you noticed, there's an asterisk at the end of 5:6, and it shows where he got this information. To such a length of extravagance and presumption has rabbinical arrogance proceeded as to promise to each Jew no less than 2,800 Gentiles and his servants and slaves. This expectation is pretended to be derived from the prediction recorded by Zechariah that 10 men shall take hold of all the languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt, border, or fringe of him that is a Jew, which is thus expounded. Made it too big. Which is thus expounded by the celebrated Rabbi Solomon Jarki. Now, just to let you know, this name, I have it on here, yeah. Rabbi Solomon Jarki is what the Christians call Rashi. Rashi wrote a commentary on the Talmud. This is where this is from. This whole teaching of servants in the kingdom, and the other nations are going to be serving the Israelites, it comes from rabbinic sources, mainly Rashi promoting this. Now, many of these historical revisionists, they like to say that these are fake Jews, right? These are the fake Jews commenting on the wicked Talmud. And the real Jews, they seem to be eating it up. A lot of people seem to believe this, not knowing it comes straight from some of the biggest Pharisee rabbinical rabbis out there. It just amazes me, right? I know they didn't read the book. They had no idea of the context in which these things were being said. Everything concerning Edom, the author was critiquing and letting you know that none of this is true. It's crazy thoughts from delusional rabbis. Now it's crazy thoughts from delusional Israelites. There's nothing that I can believe from Bruce anymore. I don't know how people are following Benaiah. If at the very least, they're poor researchers, at the very least. But I am under the impression that the Benaiahs and the people who agree with this type of information, they're pimping y'all. They're straight pimping y'all, getting the money from, and y'all are eating it up. So I'm going to leave y'all with that. Hopefully this downloads well and I can send it to Berean and then we can talk about it because got some explaining to do. All right, y'all. I got to head home. I'll let you later.
And just running back from the first 5 minutes.
Yo, grace and peace. Shalom Aleichem and Geona. I'm Covi and
trying to see if it works. I'm trying to get back on.
I'm actually kind of still at work. Everybody went home for the day, but I decided to stay after and record this video because, man, something happened the other day that I just felt needed to be addressed. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into it so that way this video could be shown and maybe we could talk about it and figure out what happened. So let's start it out, right? The other day on Berean TV, an oppressor who works for the man by locking up my and your brothers and sisters named Officer Bruce. He used a source proving Esau's identification and destruction by way of a video that this guy Benaiah Israel used. I think a lot of people know who he is. Anyways, it was said that this source was a Jewish source by a Jewish author proving that Esau is Rome and Christianity with absolutely, quote, no way to get around it, right? This source, there's no way to get around it. That's what he said. So I found this statement and this claim to be extremely odd. So I decided to get the book myself and to see what's up. And man, I'm glad I did. And you are not going to believe what I found. Check this out. Now, before I get into my findings, I just wanted to share with you the source that they decided to use. It's a book by John Allen. Both Bruce and Benaiah use it, and it's called Modern Judaism. It's about 466. I need a link. You can go check out all of this stuff yourself. Now, before I get into my findings, I want to watch this section of.
Hey, Dennis.
Yeah, go ahead, Keys.
Okay, I got a chance to listen to it, and
then Covi's here too, the guy who made the video.
Oh, that's no problem. I got a couple. Okay, I heard what he said, but I have to kind of disagree with him on certain issues, because in a past video, when somebody brought up Psalm 83, you all said it was a future event, that Christians look for it as more of a futuristic event. But then now you're saying that Edom has, you know what I mean, that Edom is not here, and it doesn't really reconcile with kind of the stuff that the Bible says. So if everything is already fulfilled, you know, that's why I asked about concerning that Joel 3. If it's fulfilled, y'all, to say it's fulfilled, I don't think we should just go on Christian commentary on it. I would like to see actual facts where it has been fulfilled, because the way you all said it was fulfilled, it was almost in totality. And it's kind of hard to reconcile that if Edom is no more right now, but you're looking for Edom to be a Psalm 83 to be a future event. How do you explain that?
All right.
And I'm not asking that from an Israel point of view. I'm just going to ask that from a point of view of somebody, let's just say, that reads the Bible with common sense. So if you're telling me that Psalm 83 is a future event, and right now Edom is no more, I mean, I honestly think Edom is here. It's just under a different name.
All right. What's going on, Unlimited Keys? Before I give an answer, I know that you said that you don't trust Christian commentaries, right? So I don't,
because it doesn't make sense with what I'm saying is the way the Christian commentary is coming off. It also kind of, in one way, say this, but then in this instance say that, all in the same breath. Because we've had this discussion. That's why I asked about that Psalm 83. It was already explained that the church stance was Psalm 83 is a future event, but Edom's no more. So how do you get that future event with Edom if Edom is no more?
All right. Can I answer without you interrupting again? Okay. So you said that Christians say it's a future event, and then the church say it's a future event. But just like how Israelites don't all believe the same thing, neither do Christians or the huge body, which is the church. So you're not going to believe what I say, and my interpretation of Psalm 83, and I'm not going to believe what you say in your interpretation of Psalm 83. Now, what I was getting at with the Christian commentaries, you said you don't believe what they say. So I'm asking you, what would you read that you would believe their take on it?
Well, first I would have to actually read the Talmud, all of it. You know what I mean? Because
You can't read the
because
whole
the
Talmud
reason the
yourself.
reason why I say I don't wholeheartedly trust the Christian commentary is because
Which
you'll
one?
lean.
Which
I mean,
one?
whatever commentary that says that you have this event, Psalm 83, concerning Edom as a future event, and
Which one
just a
says
few
that?
seconds ago, just a few seconds ago, majority of the people said that they believe Edom is no more. So if
Which one says
Edom
that?
is, huh?
Which commentary says that?
Whatever commentary you all were coming from with that, or whatever led you to believe that.
No
It
one was
doesn't have
talking
to
about
be
Psalm
comment.
83.
It doesn't have to be what I asked that in. What I asked was, I brought up Psalm 83 because with the explanation that you're just giving, if Psalm 83 is a future event but Edom is no more, are you expecting Edom to come together again?
No, what are you
Because I
talking
mean,
about? What commentary
bro,
are you talking about?
what I was saying was on another video on a Berean show.
How about we stick to this video? What commentary are you talking about? So I'm
This is
pretty sure I
about to
got it.
pertain. This is about to pertain to this Edom topic. That's why I'm going through the whole gist of it, because just about 2 weeks ago, it was agreed upon that in the group, because he asked, and a lot of people typed one. I'll find the video,
How about we
and
just find the commentary you're talking about so we can go through that?
I don't know what commentary it is
So
that
then why
led
did
you
you
all
bring it
to
up?
believe that.
So then
I
why'd you
asked
bring it up? See,
Covi,
this was the purpose of my whole
I'm asking a
video.
question for clarity. I'm
This is
asking
I
a
know.
question
I'm
for
telling you,
clarity.
this was the purpose of my whole video. Everybody makes claims, and yet when you're challenged on that claim, all you say, well, that commentary. You made a claim that
I'm
said Christian commentaries say this. Which
whatever
one?
whatever it is that led you to believe it's a future event. That's what I'm saying. If it's commentary or not, or if it's just a pastor traditionally taught that it's a future event.
What pastor
If
said that?
Edom is no if that's a future event and Edom is no more, then you got to reconcile that.
Why do I have to reconcile Psalm 83 when no one was talking about it? We were talking about the source presented by Bruce and Benaiah Israel.
Because their position is that Edom still exists.
No, their position was coming from a faulty assumption. I showed everything in the video how they didn't read the first paragraph that basically dismissed everything they said from the author's own words. They didn't read the entirety of the book they were sourcing. That was the point of the video.
Yeah, so with the whole thing, Edom not
God.
existing, as it's shown from the source, the author of their source, he's saying that, but he's not saying that he believes that. He's saying that's what the rabbis believe. All
But
of them,
Dunamis, you see a problem though. They believe, like Fervent Charity said, Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. They believe, most Israelites believe, that the Jebusites, the Hittites, the Amorites, all are alive on the planet still. A great deal of Christians in the church believe that nations were destroyed and those various groups don't exist anymore. And that's a problem right there. I think the way Elder Green explained it, some people don't understand when he say Edom is considered the wicked. Just the wicked, not a physical people, but just the wicked and those that are against God's people. I think that's why Keys is asking the question, because he's trying
That's
to
why.
y'all go ahead.
Thank you, Berean. That's all I was asking, and you know what I mean. Because to the average listener, if you say that that's a future event versus there no more, then don't none of this really make sense. And that's all I was asking is, you know what I mean? How do you make it make sense at this moment if it's no more, but it's also a future judgment?
Easy. Like Berean just said. it's not just the Christian commentaries, as you say, because a vast majority of Christian commentaries regarding Edom, including the dictionaries, they all say that Edom is representative of the wicked or the ungodly, while Israel is a representative of the godly and the God-fearers. Going back to Jewish sources, not just Christian sources, right? Even Bruce and Elder Green, who are both Israelites, relied on the Jewish Encyclopedia to show that the Jews consider Edom to be Rome and Christianity. That it can't be Rome and Christianity. You know what I mean? Christianity is way bigger than that. But the Jews use it because it's symbolic of the ungodly, and the Jews consider Christians to be ungodly because they don't really abide by the laws, statutes, and commandments the way you say. It's pretty easy when if you kind of get rid of all your presuppositions and just follow the text where it leads, like you can see how Edom and Edomites now are in a sense representative of the ungodly or wicked, especially considering that we have the entire lineage from Antipater the first Idumean convert, all the way down to Drusilla, the last one, and her son who were killed in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. There are none left. They're all dead, and we have the records of it.
Come on, most excellent.
Yeah, grace and peace, everybody. I was just gonna jump on, and I was trying to clear some things up because it seemed like the brother Unlimited Keys was trying to have a completely unrelated conversation about something that Covi's video wasn't even about. And I just noticed sometimes that when a refutation comes out, there seems to be like a red herring, or the point gets moved to something different. So Covi presented something from Bruce's own source that disproved what Bruce was trying to prove. Bruce does argue for a literal Edom, but somehow a literal Edom becomes Christians and Rome and European nations. So he's in a sense spiritualizing it, but arguing that it's literal. But all Covi was doing was showing that his own source wasn't what Bruce said it was. And then the brother jumped on to talk about Psalms 83 and how is their future. It has nothing to do with the conversation at hand. And that's sometimes how it's like we have these conversations 20, 30 times because they never get resolved, instead of dealing with what was presented. What was the source saying? Do you have something different? Did you interpret the source differently? Did Covi misinterpret something? Did you read it? Instead of doing that, we got to go to Psalms 83, Malachi 1:4, the hatred of Edom. That's a completely different discussion. And so I was just trying to say, just deal with what's being talked about and stay on topic. It's easier that way.
Gotcha. Come on, Dunamis, read the super chat.
Elder Green.
Thank you for me, Charlie. Thank you, J Mac.
Elder Green got that from Apocryphal Commentary in the Talmud, where he doesn't accept the latter of the definition where they see Edom as Christians. I say we see Idumean becoming Jews, then no more history. But from Charity, the whole standpoint is no one's denying that. From what no one's denying about Idumean becoming Jews.
Hey, Dunamis, real quick, Elder Green, when he sourced Edom being the Romans and the Christians, that wasn't an apocryphal or a commentary or anything like that. That was from his version of the New Jewish Encyclopedia. I have the Logos version, so mine's a little bit different, but it has the same definition. It's the Jewish Encyclopedia, the entry on Edom, and then you can see the post-biblical usage of the term, and that's where it shows that it's now being used for Romans and Christians. It has nothing to do with Apocrypha or anything like that. Jews don't even accept the Apocrypha. They wouldn't use it.
Yeah, and the whole standpoint is this is after Christ came. So it would make sense why they'll have certain kind of viewpoints. But the whole standpoint is we're dealing with a standpoint with the Idumeans, right? Yeah. And how they're viewed. So by that point in history, they weren't viewed like that anymore. So it's a standpoint that there are people who have a narrative of what they view as the history, but that's not the case. The sources aren't lined up to what they're saying, to how they view things. You know how folks talk about second Ezra's and things of that nature.
Yeah, and with the whole thing concerning Edom to me, it used to be a big deal especially when there was that theory out there with the forced conversion, and then they took over. And there is so much evidence of the forced conversion. You know what I mean? It's been read in Josephus. I put it out a number of times. We know exactly the person. It was Antipater. We know exactly the year. We know who John Hyrcanus, the first, is the one that converted him. We know who his son was. His grandson was Herod the Great, who was the one in charge. We know that he killed his 2 of his 5 kids, and the 3 remaining were kind of slow, so they got pushed out of office. We know what happened to their kids. All I'm saying is that we know everybody from the Herodian line. The only possible way, and I'm fair across the board, so if there's something that may be against my point or whatever, I'm more than willing to share it too, because I'd rather correct myself than have someone else correct me. The only way there could still be Edomites today is if they came through the Alexandrian line of the Jews, the ones that were Hellenized, living in Alexander, where Philo and them chilled. There might still be some over there. In the video that we saw of that useful charts or whatever, it had the entire lineage of the Maccabees and then the Herodians, and then it eventually came down and said, if you were from Egypt or your ancestors are from Egypt and you have a last name Cohen, you might have a shot at being one of those Idumeans or Edomites. But to so far, they don't know any of them. There's none. And even if they did know some of them, even if some of them were out there, how are they running the world when they're so few in numbers that no one even knows who they are? How does that make sense?
Read the super chat. I think this addressing
Okay, it says
what you just said.
Josephus knew who was Idumean and was not, as we can see from the Idumeans helping with the zealots. But how does people on the outside see them? I don't know how. Let me stick with this first. I don't know how people on the outside would see them. Everybody has a different interpretation. Everybody does what's wise in their own eyes. So I don't know how outside people would see them. However, the Idumeans helping out the zealots, I would have to ask if you know what year that took place. Because the final Idumean to die, that Drusilla and her son, was quite a bit after that. So that zealot war, all that, and number one, they got wrecked, right? The Idumeans and the zealots, they didn't win. They were going up against the Roman army and they lost, just like everybody else. So that happened that happened maybe like 50 years before the final Idumean actually died. And then he goes on to say, he says, Elder Green clearly read Apocrypha, Jacob holding Esau heel, and then the commentary. He was talking about 2 different things though. If you go back and you watch that video, you'll see him hold it up, and it says the new Jewish encyclopedia. And I wanted to make sure, so I went back, I paused it on that part, and then I had to send him a message later on to let him know that he wasn't crazy. It was Bruce that was crazy. I have the same book, and I have this commentary. That point, that specific point, the part that he didn't agree with, that specifically was from the Jewish encyclopedia.
You see any more questions on the subject? Go ahead. I'm mute myself.
No. So going on, because we had a discussion about this.
He said there's no history on the final Edomite dying. Yes, there is. Drusilla and her son, they died in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. I think that's even in Josephus too. I found it in another 2 sources, but I think Josephus speaks on it as well. I think book 20. I would have to see the exact chapter, but it talks about who Drusilla married, and then how she left with her son, and then they both ended up dying in the eruption of Vesuvius. I mean, I don't know how much more history you want on that person, because that was the final Edomite. I mean, I even have a whole bunch of maps, or not maps, but like the genealogical trees, you know what I mean, of all the Edomites. I sent them to a number of people, a number of different maps. So it's not just from one source. They all end at Drusilla, all of them across the board. Find me one Herodian lineage or a Herodian family tree that extends beyond Drusilla, and then maybe you'll have a point. But so that was all of Edom when Drusilla and her son died. No, that was the final of Edom when Drusilla and her son died. That was the final. That was it. There was no more after that. But again, there may have possibly come some from the Alexandrian Jews over in Egypt. There could be some through there. Why just the Herodian line, like they were the Idumeans? Because they were the only ones that mattered. You know what I mean? They were the only ones that were in power. They were the only ones that were There was again, they were just the only ones that mattered. I don't know that there was any other Idumeans around. I mean, I'm pretty sure there were at the time, but I don't know if there's any records on them. So I would have to ask the question to everybody else: if there's other Idumeans, can anybody provide me a name of anybody else other than a Herodian? And then I'll go look into it. We'll look into it together. You know, I don't shy away from information. I like bringing this stuff out. Someone show me a name of an Edomite other than the Herodians.
But now, Covi, now, so during the time of the New Testament, do we see the Idumean line, or Idumean power? Do we see Idumeans gaining power or losing power in the New Testament?
In the New Testament, man, I wouldn't say they're doing either. I just think they became Jews. Come on, bro. Jordan, no, Jordan. You got to read a book, man. I'm sorry. No, they had power. They came into power with Herod, who was the grandson of Antipater, the very first forced convert. It went from Antipater to his son Antipater II, I think, then to Herod the Great. And from then they're all called Herods. But the thing is, Herod the Great was in power, but he was only in power like a governor. He was in power like a priest or a high priest. And then Jordan says Herodians were not the only Idumeans. Name me another one, Jordan. Name me another one. But they were never in charge of the temple. They got in some beef earlier when someone appointed a high priest that shouldn't have been. But that was all through the Maccabean line. They were still Jews at that point. You know what I mean? They weren't Idumeans yet. The closest we have, and me and somebody else were talking about this in the back today, because they were trying to anticipate how everybody wasn't going to believe what I said, right? And they were going to ask, well, if the Idumeans are gone, what about this? And so we were anticipating arguments. And this person said that, well, what if they deny the facts and they say that all the records were destroyed? And here, I have an interesting, Josephus said they became Jews. I just read it the other day, all Idumeans. Jordan, they did become Jews, Jordan. No one is disagreeing with that. Josephus, Antiquity of the Jews, book 12 and 13. We see that. I agree with you. And this person, I told him the same thing. You can't let Jordan keep you on that, well, they were forced converts. Like, yes, we know that, Jordan. We know that. But what happens afterwards, right? What happens afterwards? And what I'm saying is, just because we have forced converts does not mean they stayed in power forever. They all did a horrible job at doing what they did, and were all eventually either killed. Herod the Great killed a majority of his own family, so a lot of those didn't even live, and the ones that could get away just eventually died out because they were conquered, they were destroyed, they were how do you say it, like they just weren't competent in their jobs. You know what I mean? That those jobs were appointed to them anyways, and the only reason they were appointed to them, with Antipater, the very first convert, the very first Idumean convert, the only reason he got the position he got is just because he happened to side with the right person at the right time. That's it. This is not some conspiracy. There is no, well, how do we know it? No, we know everything. Everything down to, I'm trying to put together a presentation right now of how each individual Idumean that we have records of died, just so we can be proven. I told Berean that I think it might be a waste of time because I don't think people are going to believe it anyways. But and see, again, he says Herodians weren't the only Idumeans. 2nd century BC, the Herodians lines didn't even exist. Jordan, after 70 AD, right? Let's go with there. Name me another Idumean beside the Herodian line. If you can't, then you should just drop that argument. I know there were other Idumeans, but so what? They're not in any record books. You know what I mean? They weren't in any position of power. The thing is, Jews today, if you look on any Jewish website, every Jewish website across the board says that that was a horrible time in the history of the Jews. Forced conversion is never something to be proud of. They thought that was one of the lowest points in Jewish history because they forced all other nations to convert. And it wasn't just the Idumeans. There was like 4 other nations that were forced to convert. I'm not even getting into the Samaritans who are already worshiping Yah and following the Torah in their way. You know what I mean? What we are looking at right now from Ezra on, those Jews forced this rabbinic Judaism that people are hating on onto everybody. The Samaritans had more of an authentic, original way of observing Torah. In the 2nd century BC, Herodians didn't exist at all. Idumeans were forced to convert and became none other but Jews. Jordan, how many times do we have to say it? We know they converted. Now what? They died out, bro. They died out. Get away from the 2nd century. We know they converted. The 1st century is when they started to gain a little bit of power. 1st century AD, they had the power and started to mess it up. And by the middle of the 2nd century, I think it was 125 AD, 127 AD, where Drusilla and her son were killed in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Like they died after that. So instead of saying the 2nd century Idumeans, show me an Idumean after 100 AD. How you just gonna say they died out though? Ain't no facts on that. Jordan, I just told. Okay, let me see. Matter of fact, hey Dunamis, you remember that video I sent you? I'm not telling you to play it or anything, but you remember that video where that one professor was saying that they died in Mount Vesuvius? So let me
Yeah.
see. I don't
I
know if I
think
can.
in Jordan's mind, even though they were the prominent Idumeans, that don't mean nothing. He wants to see. But hold on. And Obadiah, how we discussed this? Does Obadiah say the destruction of Edomites in totality, or is Obadiah talking about destruction of the Edomite house and power? That's something else. So we're talking about Edomite house and power. Once Drusilla and all of them are gone, that's fulfillment of the prophecy.
Yeah, I think Obadiah is speaking on the theological Edom, right? The enemies of God, who Edom represents, and all those who are enemies of God are going to be destroyed at the end of the days. And again, Jordan said, I'm following Herod's line. Show me another line. Show me another line, Jordan. If not Herod, show me another. It's 79 AD. There you go. I thought it was 179 AD. It's 79 AD. I showed facts, but nobody respected it. I showed you that same Josephus, book 12. We agreed with that. However, you seem to stay stuck on just the forced conversions of the Edomites and not after that. We all know that they were converted. They were forced to convert. We all know that. We agree with that. The thing is, they died out. You are only showing us that the Idumeans who mattered died out. You are not showing us how every last descendant died. Well, that's because unlike the Jews who did keep those kind of records and showed father or son to father to grandfather to great grandfather, like they had really good records. They didn't keep records of the Idumeans. All we know are the ones that are in power. But let's go ahead and go with that argument, right? Let's say that the ones that didn't matter didn't die out. Why should we care about Idumeans who are not even in power? I thought the only reason we're concerned with the Idumeans today is because they're ruling the world. How can they rule the world if we don't even, if they weren't even strong enough to live through the 1st century? Because Herod wasn't the only come up. Name me another one, Jordan. Name me another one. Anybody, help Jordan out. Can anybody name me an Idumean other than the Herodians? Let's go with about Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD. Someone show me another Idumean post 79 AD. Anybody?
No, and then Covi, to that point, and we're gonna play the video. That's somebody turns to the New Testament. We see that the Idumeans, their power holding on Israel starts to die out. So even the fact that you have Drusilla and them in Vesuvius and not in the Levant area, that shows that there's a distinct in their power. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, 100%.
And then even with the fact that James himself, he uses a more spiritualized Esau, if I'm not mistaken, like in Acts, that even the apostles didn't see Esau like that in terms of being a physical enemy. They started to go with the rabbinic thought that this is more spiritual.
Yeah. That's why GMS says that James fell off, because instead of saying like mankind, quoting Amos, he actually says Edom, like all Edom shall be saved or come to the Lord or something like that. Like he used it in a way that is like a theological construct. Yeah, Edom is mankind. Yeah. So GMS has to say that, James fell off because Edom can't be saved because they're Edom. And then it says, but he did want that birthright. Esau wanted the birthright. Just Esau, not his kids, not the ones after him. Esau. It's just, man, I can't help but to see this as just hate for somebody. You know what I mean? This is blind hate. It's crazy.
As he most actually put in the chat, James and the Septuagint translate Edom as mankind.
Yeah.
So we see that even in the New Testament, there's a spiritualization. And we also have to bear in mind that these men were filled with the Holy Spirit. So is there view who has more prominence? The New Testament apostles filled with the Holy Spirit, taught by Christ himself, who the mysteries of God the veil was taken away? Or we're gonna go to the Old Testament types and shadows? Who has a more full revelation? And in turn with that, who are we to follow in that fullness? We follow the teachings of the apostles, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let this play the first 5 minutes, so we're gonna see what's going on.
Cultural commentator Dr. Michael Brown, your voice for moral sanity and spiritual clarity. Call 866-34-TRUTH to get on the line of fire.
And so Covi, if let's say it was my neighbor was Idumean, right? Trace his line back to Idumea. Does that mean the prophecy was fulfilled? Just like how with Canaan, when God said for certain cities to destroy all the people, were all the people destroyed?
No, it's like a colloquial term, you know, like you say, like how he said all Edom will be destroyed. It's not every individual Edomite will be destroyed. The nation as a whole will be destroyed, right? And that kind of language is used throughout all the Bible. A lot of people like to say in this way, all Israel will be saved, but we know not every individual Israelite is going to be saved. We know that from Judas alone, you know, he's not going to be saved. So just because it says all, it doesn't mean each individual person.
Exactly. Just like how Dan, the sons of Korah, were cut off.
Yeah. That's a good one too. Yeah.
The Pharisees that rejected Christ. So it's a standpoint to say that all, we have to understand the context of those that are writing it.
Yeah.
So the nation of Edom doesn't exist anymore. Just like how they're Italians, but the nation of Rome, the Empire of Rome doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? No one's called himself a Roman. It's that they come from the city of Rome.
Yeah, someone brought this up earlier too, whenever we're making mention of the Perizzites, the Hittites, and the Jebusites, how like some people think they are still here. It's like the Babylonians. When's the last time somebody met a Babylonian? Like they don't exist anymore. Like these nations have come and gone because of their rebelliousness towards Yah, because of their treatment towards his people. They're gone. I don't know why people want to bring them back. You know what it is? I think it's time for some people to just rethink what they think they know about the Bible and just start again. It's okay to reconstruct your theology from time to time. You know, no one's asking anybody to be perfect. But the thing is, it's all a lot of things are dependent on the identity of Esau, when every scholar, every commentary, every historical piece of writing in antiquity say that the Edomites are no more. You know, like at some point we have to not lean on our own understanding.
Yeah. And Joe, I'm going to go to Ezekiel 36.
Yeah.
Everyone I've seen for sure. And let me see what this guy is saying. Conversations like these are why literate people believe in Christ. Deconstruction comes with asinine theories like these make believers sound foolish. In what circles do they sound foolish, this guy?
I think this is why Berean says a lot of the time that this channel isn't for new believers, whether it's a new believer in Christianity or a new believer in Hebrew Israelism. like this channel isn't really for y'all kind of people. These are what would be considered some of the weightier matters of scripture, you know. If you have arguments like that say this is why people leave, maybe you should not be here, you know. Like this is the deep stuff that people often say they want, but most times can neither comprehend nor handle.
And then, what's the argument a lot of people say? I was never taught in my church. I can never ask my pastor questions. So so you know, it's kind of like folks want a space where we didn't ask questions. We have these deep discussions, but at the same time, they have a threshold of where they want to thump a little. Yeah, hold on. I see.
You know what I mean?
Go ahead.
Like how are you gonna have time to worship God talking about this stuff? You know, church is only but like an hour out of the day. This is more table talk. If I mean, everybody, a lot of people here say they're Israelites. Whenever you go through your Torah portion for the week, this is when you sit at the table and discuss things. Israelite tradition says after you read the Torah portion on Friday night, you're supposed to sit with your family and discuss all these issues. That's why the Bible, Paul tells women to ask their men at home these questions during Sabbath table talk. There's a point for this. I mean, y'all are Israelites. Y'all should know this.
All right, hold on. Let me see. So then I said, okay, so cut the confusion. Just say those nations no longer exist, not the people, because that'll be hard to prove a whole bloodline when it's and that's the whole standpoint. I think people are saying that the whole bloodline to go extinct. If you have a whole bunch of Idumeans who left the area and migrate somewhere else, is God gonna put down like a Idumean blood disease? You know what I'm saying? So the destruction of Edom, that's why even the whole Vesuvius, how a mountain erupted and destroyed the last Idumeans. If we spiritual people, we'll say that's God's doing. That was judgment on them. That's how the old folks will say. That's what I would hear. Jacob and Esau came from the womb. So Jacob is still physically here, but Esau is a mere evil person.
Yeah, see, and this is what's interesting as well. It makes me sometimes feel like people haven't really paid enough attention to the New Testament. So in the Old Testament, all this stuff was fleshly, carnal, real, right? Jacob, who was converted to Israel because he was born Jacob, he was a real fleshly person named Israel. Esau was a real fleshly person named Esau. But all those things were just shadows of what was to come. Everything now has pretty much turned into some form or fashion, a kind of theological construct that the apostles are working with. That's why Paul has so many letters. He's trying to figure all this out, and he's wrestling with all this information because all he's known all his life is this fleshly, carnal version of everything. Paul, before his eyes were open, he was talking just like you guys. So I understand and I can sympathize. But at some point, you have to open your eyes to Christ and realize that all that fleshly stuff is no more. It's all spiritual now. That's why I say there's a spiritual Israel. There's a spiritual Esau, right? The kingdom is a spiritual aspect already, but not yet. All this becomes spiritual. This book is not easy. It's hard. So who is a Sephardic or Ashkenazi or Mizrahi if it's all spiritual? I've been hoodwinked. Yes, you have, Jordan, in more ways than one. But who are the Sephardic? A lot of them can actually prove their ancestry to, even if it be a convert, right? Converts are still Jews. That's why no one really goes by Israel anymore. They stopped going by Israel during the 1st century, during the Maccabean era, because, okay, so this is, man, I can't get into it. It's going to take a lot of time. Pretty much the names of Hebrew, Israelite, Jew, Judah, they were all the same thing used for different times.
But Jordan, doesn't that showcase two things? One, doesn't that showcase the power of Yah?
100%.
There's those who maintain even the tradition. And then secondly, doesn't that showcase the power of the law doesn't say, but the power of the law, that he keeps these tenets And that's what kept them going all this time. So wouldn't that be a testament from the old to showcase this deity might be something we might have to look into? That for all these years, these people have been getting kicked out and killed and suffering from the time of the Exodus going forward, but yet somehow a remnant remains, a physical remnant.
A physical remnant that still abides by the traditions of their fathers, right? And I find it interesting. I know a lot of people like to rely on the books of the Maccabees because they are really good historical books. They shouldn't be in the Bible, but they are good historical books. In the book of First Maccabees, during the Maccabean revolt, Judas Maccabeus, not only was he trying to reclaim the temple, but he was also killing Israelites who were assimilated to the culture of the time. They were no longer keeping Sabbath. They were no longer abiding by the laws. They were no longer doing anything that makes somebody Israel. Not bloodline. Obviously, bloodline wasn't it, because he wouldn't be killing them if bloodline is what matters. It's all about how you live your life that makes somebody Israel. Now, I have a question for everybody who claims Israel in here. If you did not tell people you were Israel, would they be able to tell? Do you abide by the traditions and the laws as you're supposed to? Because from what I see, a lot of people do not. And when it comes to the law, all people making fun of this spiritual stuff, everything then becomes spiritual. When it comes to the law, things are now spiritual because they don't want to give up anything. That's what makes Israel different. They have to be a light to the rest of the nations. And in order to be a light, you have to keep the same way of being that light. You can't change anymore. If you claim to be Israel, but you do nothing Israelite-ish, you're part of the church. You're Ephraim. You know what I mean? You're part of the church, and that's not bad, but you can't claim Israel anymore, especially when you have no proof to ethnic claims.
Yeah. And that's part of the whole discrepancy. But we see, but Jordan, it's like you keep going to Paul and that kind of stuff, brother. You know what I'm saying? It's like no one's saying that the kinsmen of the flesh, all that kind of stuff, not there. We're just saying that with Edom, in terms of nation, all that kind of stuff, they're gone as a nation. Edom's gone. That's the whole point. So if I said nations are not a thing today, and people are called by ancient today, then what should be done about the nations in end time prophecy getting punished as said, "Oh, nations"? That's where now it comes down to spiritualization. About folks spiritualizing. It's about the text going beyond just physical nations, going to powers and principalities. And a standpoint that what is Jerusalem called? Spiritual Babylon. That we see that we have these things in text going to a bigger narrative, going beyond the time of Israel, going into Genesis, going back to the fall at Babel, going to the garden with death. That those are the major players that are dealt with in Revelation. So it's going beyond just Israel existing. It's dealing with the whole plight of mankind itself. Who is the enemy of mankind? To where Israel plays a focal point, Jerusalem and whatnot, but the whole standpoint is that there's something greater than just Israel. There's Christ, and there's a greater enemy than just Edom. You know what I'm saying? There's something
That's
bigger
100%
out
true.
there.
100% true.
And that's why you even see Paul. We go back to the whole thing about, we know that Hagar and Sarah were literal women that physically existed. But at the same time, we said this allegorical to what happened in terms of dealing with them and how to deal with the law. At one time, they coexisted, but the bond has to be kicked out. Mm-hmm. So that's what we see. They even using Old Testament stories beyond what they are. Hebrews 11, the Hall of Faith, that's in a sense is allegorical. Not that the people weren't real, but they're taking the whole essence of their stories for a deeper meaning to teach a lesson from Abraham, all that kind of stuff. So they are spiritualizing the text. They're spiritualizing the Old Testament. They're making it allegorical. They're showing the lessons from what these people are doing to what it means for the believer today.
Now, what's crazy is, right? So let's say people want to still assume that Esau is a group of people in some form or fashion, right? The only people in the world that believe that are the Talmudic Jews that are said to be fake Jews? Why is it that everything they say is supposed to be of the devil, but when it comes to hating on Esau, then it's correct? Nobody else in the world, nobody else hates on Esau like the quote unquote fake Jews. Why is it that those who claim Israel today are still taking their teachings? And I'll give it to you. It's from what they would consider a master teacher. Rashi was. I have a Torah right now, and in the Torah, every page has a commentary from Rashi. He was a big deal. You know what I mean? But he was a Talmudic or Talmud reading Pharisaical rabbi. This is his teaching.
And
It's
that's what
crazy.
we've been saying, that there's some folks who need to be a little more rabbinical than what they claim to be. That there's certain things you don't see in a text like that has to be imposed upon. And it comes from later commentaries. And the same man how folks say that's Christian commentary, that's a white man, that's at seminary. There's certain things that don't come organically just from the text like that. It seems to be fleshed out from the rabbis. And we just have to be honest.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Just be honest. Like me, since becoming Messianic, I read a lot more in Jewish studies. I've been reading the Talmud. I read all kinds of things. But just because it's helpful to understand how the first century and even earlier Jews lived. So that's what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to get back to the traditions of my fathers. And a lot of those writings are in the Talmud. Now, being that I believe in Jesus, I share some of the same opinions as Elder Green. And he doesn't believe some of this stuff because he knows better. He knows that Christianity is the way to go. He just happens to observe Christianity in the ways of his father, which is a messianic type of way. Now, he's at least honest about it, as am I. We take traditions from the Talmud as well. At least we're honest about it. Everybody here has been using and regurgitating the same rabbinic interpretations of scripture. And like I said, they're just, if they agree with it, it was written by actual Israelites. But if they don't agree with it, then it was somehow written by the false Israelites who are actually Esau. Like, it makes no sense. There's no consistency, and the logic just does not follow, nor does the history line up, and the chronology does not agree with you.
Read Lynn Hunter.
Lynn says, I don't recommend following any of their teachings. I don't think you should either, Covi. If you want to learn the customs and culture, lean on the Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit's teaching custom and culture, Lynn?
No. If the Holy Spirit is teaching custom and culture, why are these quote unquote Israelites running around here speaking Lashon Kadash?
Why don't they speak that ancient? Come on.
Now look at this.
And the Spirit told them. That's what they
in the Spirit, yeah. Do you believe the Talmud when it says unfaithful babies turn black? That's not in the Talmud, but I know what you're saying. Dr. Brown actually brings this up. And no, I don't believe that. They are using it in a form of allegory. I wish you would have listened to the entirety of Dr. Brown's answer regarding that. He said that the good babies turn white and the bad babies turn black, but it didn't mean skin. That's what I'm saying. Y'all take everything too fleshly. It's not skin. It's wild. I will say, though, there are some racist things in the Talmud, right? Whenever it's talking about how Ham messed up on the ark, therefore, like the raven and the dog, he made them all black. Now, what I don't understand is, if the Talmud is criticizing black people, why is it that you somehow think that those Israelites were black? It was not taken over and rewritten by fake Jews. No. We have the lineage of everybody who wrote something in the Talmud. Like, they're very, very important people in the Jewish religion. And it just like we can trace almost everything else when it comes to the Jewish religion, I know I traced at least from Shammai and Hillel all the way up to like Shammai and Hillel the 6th, like AD era, whenever they eventually all died out too. You know what I'm saying? But all that, it's there to look for anybody who wants to look. I've tried to provide sources, and I've tried to hand out links, and I've even given access to these folders. I remember when I first started working at the seminary, everybody said, and I used to say things like, man, now I can read books that weren't made available to me because I was just a normal person. Everybody said, release that stuff. Let us have it. Now I'm releasing it to y'all and letting y'all have it, and no one believes it. It's crazy. It's a little crazy.
You see that comment?
He said, Covi, did you switch to Messianic Judaism while on Berean? What major points drove that decision? Man, that's a can of worms. But to make it simple and easy, I'll say that the light that came from Elder Green just drew me in. You know how some people like what's his name? Roger, how now he's with Pastor Mike. You know, there's certain people that jump on that are learned, that are seasoned, that are elders in their churches and communities, that young believers like me and Roger just are attracted to. Now, Roger is more of that Orthodox lifestyle, so you know that's awesome too. I congratulate him for finding someone like Pastor Mike. But for me, it's the light that Elder Green showed that really attracted me more and caused me to say, you know what, forget all this Israelite stuff. I just like the traditions of your fathers, and I want to learn them too.
Marine, we gotta talk to Elder Green about that. I ain't gonna say what he doing, but he doing something. And he said, "Don't gentleize me," but it seems like he doing something over here.
Come on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we talked about that too, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we shouldn't bring up, but it's this is late night Berean TV, and you know we can talk about this stuff now.
Israel's the apple of his eye.
This video was part of what he was discussing.
That's what it's saying.
Israel is the apple of his eye, and their culture and customs are of him.
Questions coming for Covi.
Yeah, but no, I see. This is to put up earlier, but Lynn, honey, you got to realize that one. This is what we talked about even with Plummer. Rest in peace. Are there things in the Torah that aren't as explicit that you have to go to commentaries to understand how to do? How to tie tzitzit.
Like you said, the fringes, like Elder Greenberg.
Yeah.
Fringes.
Or the marriage contract.
And I don't mean to disrespect nobody, but we got to stop spooking ourselves out. The Holy Spirit ain't showing you everything. Plain and simple.
Not showing you everything.
Showing you everything.
And the things like I know people say that they don't want to really rely on commentaries or scholars, but unless you know Hebrew and Greek, guess what? You're relying on a commentary and scholars who translated it. Because it's I really understand it until I got into intermediate Greek, but all translations are interpretations. So if you don't read it in Hebrew or in Greek, someone is giving you their interpretation of what they think the word means. And you read their translations, you know, it just amazes me how the commentaries is where it splits. Matter of fact, the whole system, even if you can read Hebrew, right? I'm going to go as far as this. Even if you can read Hebrew, but you're still reading the Masoretic text, the fact that they added those little dots and dashes, that's something that's extra that really, for those that say you shouldn't add or take away, that's in a sense an addition in the physical sense. Now, I understand it's just how to vocalize and stuff like that. I like to be aware of all the angles of that, you know what I mean? So my thing is this, right? My thing is this. If you really don't want to rely on anything but the Holy Spirit, there is a way you can do that. First, you got to learn Hebrew. Second, you got to learn Greek. So that way, when you read these words and you have to translate them, the Holy Spirit will tell you the best form and the right syntax in which that word needs to be translated. Because that, I'm telling you, try to translate a couple of verses and you're definitely going to need the Holy Spirit because it is super, super hard.
Yeah, and I'm clear about that. And then another thing, too, it's a whole standpoint of culture that there's certain things that they did at one time, but they don't do now. Or they start to do up at a certain point, the rabbis and all that kind of stuff. When we ask the question about did they on Sabbath, did Moses and them, did they congregate amongst themselves or what did they do? We know after Ezra, they started to congregate and go to have discussions, but in the time of Moses, that wasn't done. So we see even with that, there are traditions that progress over time. That wasn't done by the first people, but there's nothing wrong with it. I'm going to let this play, though, about scholars in terms of should we rely on them.
Yeah, we should definitely, we have to. Everybody does. Everybody does. Even everybody that did that Jed match or all that, there were scholars in their field who put that together, right? But there's something that this argument needs to be dropped already. But from undoctrinated minds said you're learning Yiddish, not the original Hebrew. So check it out. I have Sephardic heritage, right? And I know that my family, when they were in Spain, they didn't speak straight up Hebrew. That was for religious services, as it is for the people who speak Yiddish. They use actual Hebrew for religious services and when reading the Hebrew scriptures. The thing is, Yiddish is just a dialect of how they read the Hebrew. In Spain, for the Sephardic Jews, they spoke in what was called Ladino. And you can hear it in the way Mexicans talk, or not just Mexicans, but I'm Mexican, so I hear it a lot in how they talk. And the words they use and the vernacular and how they use a K instead of a CA. And just there's just different things. The is Shabbat. We keep that day holy. Shabbat, Shabbat. That's original Hebrew. Yiddish calls it Shabbos. We know the difference between Yiddish and original, quote unquote, original Hebrew. I'll say biblical Hebrew. Your opinion, I ain't gonna argue. It's not opinion, bro. Look it up.
Scholars? Yes, we all do. Who do you think translated the Bible into English for you to comprehend? Who do you think trained your pastor or priest at a seminary? Where do you think biblical commentaries come from? Who copied and preserved New Testament manuscripts for the past 2,000 years? The answer to all these questions is scholars. Nobody gets their theology in a vacuum. We all rely on experts who came before us that laid down teachings we take for granted. St. Paul was a scholar in his day. The early church fathers were also scholars in their own right. Our theology has always come through the work of scholars. To say otherwise and demean those who rely on scholars does not show how pious you are. It shows ignorance. Do I get my theology from modern scholars? Yes, we all do. Who do you think translated the Bible into English for you to comprehend? Who do you think trained your pastor or priest at a seminary? Where do you think biblical commentaries come from? Who copied and preserved New Testament manuscripts for the past 2,000 years? The answer to all these questions is scholars. Nobody gets their theology in a vacuum. We all rely on experts who came before us that laid down teachings we take for granted. St. Paul was a scholar in his day. The early church fathers were also scholars in their own right. Our theology has always come through the work of scholars. To say otherwise and demean those who rely on scholars does not show how pious you are. It shows ignorance.
Yeah, because even those who say they don't follow, folks watch YouTube videos. So it's a whole standpoint. No one's doing this in a vacuum. When folks about the Strongs and all that kind of stuff, that's scholarship.
Yo, not to mention Strong's being scholarship, it's actually outdated scholarship. You remember I sent you that that slideshow,
Yeah.
Dunamis?
Yeah.
Pretty much Strong's, Young's, and there was another one were all outdated as soon as they were printed because of the discovery of this. I'm not going to get into it, but there's a reason that they're free online.
Yeah, so it's a whole standpoint of that if you're following someone, you know, there's a level of folks that I learned by myself, but I don't know anyone in here who just reads the Bible by their lonesome. They have discussion with folks. They watch videos, all that kind of stuff. Even their foundation, how they interpret the text, they have someone who they follow. So I'm gonna let this play. Let's see what Dr. Brown talking about.
And now, here's your host, Dr. Michael Brown.
Thanks for joining us today on the Line of Fire. Michael Brown, delighted and blessed to be with you. Those watching, I've got a coat on. The studio here in Fort Worth is a little bit cool today, so I've got a coat on, but everything normal as always. Jewish-related calls today. Any Jewish-related question of any kind, give me a call, 866-34-TRUTH, 866-348-7884. I do want you to know I've heard from a number of Hebrew Israelite leaders about having debates. One's already put out a video accepting my offer to debate. So I'm going to tell you some of the folks I've heard from, Those that have gone public, I'll mention the names publicly. Others, I'll just describe what they've talked about without mentioning the names publicly because they've just reached out to me privately. But by all means, let's put the issues on the table. I know that there are many different groups out there identifying as Hebrew Israelites, and some are more moderate and some are more radical, and some have beliefs that are very much in keeping with biblical beliefs about salvation through the blood of Yeshua, and others with beliefs that are very radical and very different. But for the sake of truth, for those that are really looking for truth, those that want truth, we'll pursue it together. For those who won't listen to quote, a white Edomite devil, well, I just pray for them. They're in deception. What they believe is factually wrong. They need to really come to know the one true God, the Most High, and receive forgiveness of sins and new life and find the truth. But others are seeking. Others are more moderate. So whatever we can do constructively, we want to do to help, as this is an issue, a question, the Hebrew Israelite question that's really come to the surface. Our videos commenting us in recent weeks have gotten a lot of attention. So I'm not going to talk about this all the time, but I want to devote one more Thursday to talking about a number of Hebrew Israelite myths. So here's what I ask everyone listening for. Just pursue the truth. Pursue the truth, okay? There are things that I might hold to that are different than what you hold to, and someone else holds to something different. How do we sort it out? With all your heart before God, pursue the truth and tell him, I only want the truth wherever it leads, whatever the cost, whatever the consequence. All right. And Patrick, thanks for calling. I will get you to be a little later in the show, sir, but I see you here and I do want to speak with you. All right. So let me debunk one of the silliest Hebrew Israelite myths. Then when I say this, I don't want to offend those who don't hold to these things. So I know some of you hold to this and some of you don't. All right.
All right, Covi, you want to read the screen?
Yeah, Bruce has got to go back and watch this video, man. This is all about you, Bruce. We were shouting you out the whole time, man.
Maybe he. Go ahead. Let me see if maybe he started watching it and
He
catching
said,
up now.
He said, have you lost your mind? Hellenized Greek and Yiddish Hebrew is not the only way to understand scripture. I didn't say that, but by its very nature, Greek is Hellenized. That's what Hellen means. It's Grecianized. It's Greek. See, it's things like that that show me that you've never been to seminary. But Yiddish Hebrew is not the only way to
Read
understand
the rest of it. No, he said he'd been to seminary. Read the rest of it. Just the good part.
Like I said, I'm a registrar in a seminary, and I've looked for Bruce at other seminaries. And anyways, spoken like a true seminary student.
Go ahead.
Spoken like a true seminary student who has been fully indoctrinated in Eurocentric Christianity. What does that mean, Bruce? What does Eurocentric Christianity mean?
We hate right there.
I'm still at work. Bruce still leading his people into captivity. Man, he's gonna be the first one to go into captivity. That verse says, "He that leadeth in captivity going." First one going into captivity. How many people you lock up this week, Bruce? How many Israelites you lock up this week, Officer Bruce?
Oh man, hey Covi, let me ask you, what is love in the Old Testament and what's love in the New Testament?
So there's a couple of different. I think there's I think there's only. I don't know how many loves there are in the Old Testament, but there's like 5 different forms of love in the New Testament. It has a wide range of meaning.
All right, stop right there. Do those range of meanings come from a Hebrew mindset, or you got to go to the Greek?
You got to go to the Greek. You can't find all those in the Hebrew.
So is love Hellenized? We got to break that down because we're talking about Hellenized, but even terms they explain in the New Testament, they don't come from Hebrews. They come from Greek thinking. So what do we do with that? The logos, the word, all that kind of stuff.
That was a lot of this. I don't know if I can agree with Bruce. A lot of this stuff is not Eurocentric.
Not even a little bit.
But go ahead, I'm listening.
Yeah, because Lynn has some of the Hebrew. Nah, there's love, but there's the essence of agape is unconditional love. Filio is brotherly love. You know what I'm saying? Is there a word-to-word translation for filio in Hebrew? Or is that more of a Greek understanding how love can manifest in different forms? That's a whole
different forms. Either saying the same in both. It's not an eros, not a agape. It's a little more detailed, to be honest. In the Greek, it's a little more detailed. Is
Yeah.
it erotic love? It is a brotherly love. It'll tell you a little more than just love, what type of love it is.
You know, and what's really messed up, and what atheists, or not atheists, what same-sex affirming pastors and same-sex affirming quote unquote theologians use, is the love that King David had for Jonathan. They say that that's the same kind of love used in the romantic way for the New Testament. Because if you look at it, there's only one or two words for love in the Hebrew scriptures, right? But in Greek, they diversify it, and they give you about 5 different forms of love. I think it's actually 7, but we know of 5 for sure, different forms of love. So they'll go back and they'll try to place in the Greek understanding of love into the Hebrew scriptures, and they'll try to make it seem like King David, you know what I mean? Just that's sort of like saying it's a symbol. That's why I assume that, you know, you do that. Also, for anybody who's looked into some languages, you know, in Hebrew, you'll notice that scriptures are like, you know, 2/3 of the scriptures, 1/3 of the Bible. Going to pick up dictionary or a word to memorize vocabulary, the Hebrew is small. When because they can expound everything that was meant. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, because I see the brother talking about this dude a baby with the scripture. The whole thing is here we probably someone who came in with a different name. Undocumented minds. Is the New Testament, is it Hellenized in any kind of way? Is the New Testament Hellenized in any kind of way? Nah, Covi's not saying that with LGBT. He's saying that if you're trying to say there's one-to-one comparison with love and the old and the new, it opens the room for faulty doctrine dealing with same gender love, like with David and Jonathan. But when you have an understanding that there's different types of love in the New Testament, that it goes into more detail. So that's what he's trying to say. Oh my God, brother. So you're telling me the logos, the word, where does John get the logos from? That concept. Why would he use that? We just talked about love. In the Greek, there's different types of love. In the Old Testament, how many types of love are there? In the Hebrew, Old Testament, how many types of love are there? How is love expressed? So you can't just say modern thing and say that's a love between friends. No, how would they understand that love there with the terms they're using? Is it limited? That's the whole thing about being Hellenized. That there's certain terms that how they understood the world, it evolved. Even the soul in the Old Testament is in the flesh, the throat. How is the soul understood in the New Testament? Is it the same? That's the whole thing. Are we seeing that their understanding of the world is adapting and evolving? Even the whole thing about the spirits. In the Old Testament, it's in Daniel where you're dealing with the Greeks, that they have to have different kind of things. Charity, thank you. Thank you, Jordan. Charity. Where's charity like that in the Old Testament? What does charity mean in the New Testament? That's the whole thing. Things are evolving. Were the seminaries who copied the transcripts Greek, Jew, European? I'll let Kobe go ahead, brother.
The fact that you asked the question in that type of way shows that you're not ready for the answer.
Thank you.
There were no
Thank you.
seminarians who copied any transcripts. These were done well before any official seminary was even thought of. Now, there was always yeshivas and rabbinic schools and schools for the prophets and things like that, but none of that. They were scribes. Scribes were the ones that copied this, and they were a self-correcting community. You know how we say peer review, like we don't read that unless it's peer reviewed in the whole scholarly community. Check it out. Well, the scribes were a self-correcting society, and after they would write something down after copying it from one of the manuscripts, primarily well, anyways, when they would copy it down, They would have the whole community of other scribes come back and look at it. Now, if they messed up, the reputation was tarnished. They were not going to sell. And you can only write about you can only copy 4 transcripts in a year. So if you messed one up, that's a quarter of your yearly salary gone. The transmission of the text is a miracle in itself. It's unbelievable how the Bible that we hold in our hands today is, what did they say, like 99.5% exactly how it was in the first century. Like, that's amazing. It's because they paid that much attention to detail and didn't let anybody mess up. There was no way anybody can sneak in. Look at it now. I know y'all say that y'all used to go to church or whatever, but remember when y'all were in church? Say y'all read the Lord's Prayer in the King James Bible, right? And that's how y'all did it at the church. Imagine someone came to your church when everybody could and be like, man, what are you doing? We're KJV up in here, right? That's how it was when the scribes copied these manuscripts. They would call out anything that was different. There's so many, there's a lot of aspects, a lot of nothing to do with it.
Yeah, yeah. And then this brother, oh man, Landon, you the homie, but Landon, you here we go. And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is a commandment that as he walk, man, brother, ain't gonna put boo at the end. Man, brother, is that love? Okay, so Landon, let me ask you this: when you with your girl, is that? Bro, I don't think y'all. I think some folks aren't getting it. So it's the whole standpoint about love in terms of agape, filio, eros. You know what I'm saying? Are they one and the same? They're all love, but do they manifest the same way? That's what the whole concept about how the Greeks thought about love. That the Jews said they understood more about how love shows itself. You see what I'm saying? That's why when people ask the question, does God love Hitler? You know what I'm saying? And you know those atheist questions, do you love this person, that person? What does that mean? So Landon, do you love your enemies, Landon? What does that look like? Do you love your enemies? How does that shown? What kind of love? Okay.
He said love is based off of the commandments. I said that's how come this. I think some of this comes from being a Bible thumper. Some of this comes from not wanting to get into it's okay that y'all in here and all of y'all in here speaking English. That don't mean you got a white mind because you're speaking the language. I think if love is broken down in different words, it's just giving you more clarity. That's all it is. It seems like a lot of what people are saying, because they believe in some type of conspiracy and then the white man, and they trying to hide our identity and who we are, they're moving in a type of ignorance. That's how come the handlers are like, don't teach us, we don't want to know all of that stuff, hypostatic union and all of this. We're trying to help people to come up. You could still be Israel and understand the hypostatic union. You could still be Israel and understand the different words for love. If you say eros, listen, he's feeling me. If you say that to the Greek and somebody to a girl, she know that you're feeling her in some type of way. If I say if I say the fervent charity, Philo, like where we get the word Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, that's nothing wrong with that. I love you, brother. I don't love you the same way I love home girl. I love my wife. It's a different type of love. It's just breaking it down. That's all it is. It's nobody went to school to try to convert your minds to accept a white Jesus and all that. Get that out your head. It's like some of y'all are against education on the strength. And then we'll start lying and we'll start talking about a Hebrew mindset. And then when we ask you about the Hebrew mindset, go back and give it to us from the ancients. Y'all ain't got nobody to give it to us. You go to the handlers. Give us the Greek, give us the Hebrew mindset. What is the Hebrew mindset? Oh, it's black power. I don't know. Go ahead, Dunamis.
Nah, and I see Orthodox more saying yes, dude. You can make up that Greek and Hebrew line up. All right, brother. Septuagint. Nah, I'm with you on that. It's the whole essence, though, the standpoint of whenever someone says Hellenized, I think they don't understand what it means to be Hellenized. That is not always bad.
Like y'all are Americanized. Y'all are Israelites, but y'all Americanized.
Yeah. And then to Judah Maccabee, y'all would be in the wrong state of mind.
Judah Maccabee would have, he would have taken out every quote unquote Israelite here that is not abiding by the what they call law, statutes, and commandments. They're not Israel to actual Israelites.
Yeah. So that's
can I read Bruce's super chat?
Oh yeah, I'll put it up there for you. Crazy. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you.
Appreciate that, Bruce. Covi, how dare you say how many Hebrew Israelites have I locked up? Are you saying only black people commit crimes and get arrested? No. I just don't think Israel is only black. This shows how you have no knowledge of the sensitivity of black people treatment by white police officers. But you're not a white police officer. You're a black police officer, and you got to ride with your people. And whenever you're on the job, your people wear a badge. It don't matter what set they claim or if they got fringes. You know what I mean? So you're kind of you're showing out. to quote one of the lesser known prophets from Compton, you're showing out for the white guy.
Covi,
You're a couple of seconds behind.
Yeah, let that go.
Let them. Go ahead. Did you even start playing the videos?
No. Yeah, but no, one last thing. Yeah, Orthodox more. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that I'm still learning the language myself, but I think just the whole thing with using the language as a simple example to showcase that there's a plethora to what's there. You know what I'm saying? If there's there, I'm fine with it. It's just the fact that a lot of folks aren't like you that can break that down in that manner. You know what I'm saying? A lot of folks just don't know how deep it really goes with the language and understanding. But fair use.
So those that don't, I don't want to insult you by painting with a broad brush. I know some of you do hold these things, some don't. So if the shoe fits, wear it. So one of the silliest, most ridiculous things.
Like one last thing, like Berean, where does charisma come from? The concept of charisma or Covi.
I don't know, man. I know a little. I'm barely an intermediate Greek. I know charisma is the Greek word. I can't recall right now the exact definition of it, and I don't really know how we got the etymology of English words.
If I'm not mistaken, charisma deals with the Greek and a gift. They believe it was a gift from the gods. So if you can speak well, if you have certain things about your oratory debate, that you're charismatic. You know what I'm saying? But then we would take it in the church to what charisma, the gifts, dealing with the gifts of the spirit, the charismatic movement, all that kind of stuff. So that showcases how there's a concept that's in the world, a Hellenized view of that being put forth in terms of the body. But we have no issue with it. We have no issue when Paul talks about the gifts and uses charisma coming from God, how we understand it to be. But that's the whole thing with the language. There's certain things that are Hellenized or are Greek view, but they don't disrupt the text. All of us have been born and raised in
Dunamis cut out.
Yeah, he sure did.
I'll read it till he comes back. It says, all of us have been born and raised in this country, have been assimilated to the culture we live in. That's not a bad thing. It's just the way it is and beyond any of our control. I agree 100%, just say. That's why they made such a big deal in the New Testament about not having to become Israel in order to be saved. Becoming Israel was not getting a blood transfusion. It was abiding by their laws, statutes, commandments, regulations, and traditions that made one Israel. And that's why they're saying it's not about circumcision that makes you Israel. It's how you live your life. You know what I mean? You didn't have to be Israel to be saved. So us as Americans, who if you choose not to adhere to the Israelite traditions, it's okay. You're still going to be saved. You just can't also claim Israel because according to how the original Israelites viewed Israel, you wouldn't be one of them. You would be what they consider, and Elder Breen brought this up briefly, you would be considered Ephraim. Judas Maccabeus would have killed. It's hard to claim Israel. man. Like it to do Israel things, you know. It's a difference, not a difference. You know, everybody when they go to church, you know, if you're just in the pews, you know that you can live your life a certain way, and you know you may backslide sometimes, and you know accidentally sin here or there, but you don't want your pastor to be doing that. Everybody looks at their pastor as like being on another level. They're supposed to be more, quote unquote, more righteous. They're the leaders, you know what I mean? No one wants to see them fall for these little things. It doesn't this and church, same law. I mean, you're not Israel by definition.
Is it Covi breaking up? They saying?
You both cutting out?
No, I can hear you. Go ahead.
I don't know. It says
Do me a favor, play the first 10 minutes of that video again. Let's because other people came in.
I don't know. All I heard was play. Jordan said, "I'm a Christian Israelite, just like Paul, Peter, John, etc." The laws. Israel. I'm Covi, and I'm actually kind of still at work. Everybody went home for the day, but
Type of one
I
if y'all can
decided
hear
to
this.
stay after and record this video because, man, something happened the other day that I just felt needed to be addressed. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into it so that way this video could be shown and maybe we could talk about it and figure out what happened. So let's start it out, right? The other day on Berean TV,
Type of one
an oppressor who works for the man by locking up my and your brothers and sisters named Officer Bruce. He used a source proving Esau's identification and destruction by way of a video that this guy Benaiah Israel used. I think a lot of people know who he is. Anyways, it was said that this source was a Jewish source by a Jewish author proving that Esau is Rome and Christianity with absolutely, quote, no way to get around it, right? This source, there's no way to get around it. That's what he said. So I found this statement and this claim to be extremely odd. So I decided to get the book myself and to see what's up. And man, I'm glad I did.
Dunamis, let's check your audio. What is Covi saying to Benaiah Israel's scholarship then?
Yeah, it's a question about how are folks vetting the sources? By what methodology? Are folks even reading the sources?
Because we've seen that came up with somebody else. Oh man, y'all trying to stop the awakening. Go ahead. Let me check your audio. Covi, you muted.
Oh yeah, my bad. We just
screen. Let me type one if y'all can hear him good.
Says we need Bruce to answer this video. No diversion, no rabbit holes. Deal with this topic that Covi is laying out. Yeah, I agree. And anybody, you know, there's no shame in the game. And this is a real big test for those who claim that they just strictly want proof. Benaiah is considered a leader in this game, right? Yeah. Everybody made a big deal about him because that book and documentary he made. At least in this one source, I don't check out his other stuff. It's just that Bruce brought this up, so I decided to check it out, and he got it from Benaiah. Benaiah straight up lied about this. If you are strictly in this for truth and the love of Jesus, y'all should be able to straight up, flat out, what's the word? Like disavow him for something like that. He's straight up lying to you. So Bruce, I would like to see the same thing. Not saying you can't continue to be racist how you want to be, Bruce, but what I'm saying is if you can't admit that you are wrong in this sense and that you did not read this source like you should have, you are of your father, the devil.
Wait, no, but Bruce didn't read the source. He took us to a video and just said, go to 44 minutes or whatever the minute mark was. Matter of fact, Dunamis, do me a favor, pull up that video so we can hear it slowly. Pull up that video. And what's the minute mark, Bruce? Put the minute mark in there. Or from mine, because it was playing kind of fast. But go ahead, keep going. I'm sorry, keep going, Covi.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. Because that's the biggest thing. If folks are saying to do your research, and we're just taking videos for face value, that's something we have to look into.
My thing is, if it's devil worship, if the Talmud is devil worship, oh man, it's just we got to figure this out. Are these Israelites using the Talmud? Did the light skinned Jews write the Talmud? I asked y'all, was Moses, Maimonides, was Philo in them? Were they black Hebrew Israelites? The writers of the Talmud, Babylonian or Jerusalem, were they black Hebrew Israelites?
And that's a very interesting question. And we know that Josephus, I think I put it in that same book that Jordan read, right? Josephus, book 12, line, I think 297. He says that because he was a Pharisee at this time. He tried out, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but it's in the life of Josephus. He was a Pharisee, a Sadducee, and an Essene. He wanted to see which one was the best for him. He studied.
I didn't know that part. I didn't know them other parts, them other Essene. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he decided to stick it out with the Pharisees. He liked the way they did it. Now, in line 297, he was talking about the Sadducees because they chose not to obey the traditions of the fathers as him and the rest of the Israelites did. Because the Sadducees, they're only about the first 5 books and that's it. The Pharisees, however, like Josephus, abided by what would be considered the oral tradition at the time. It wasn't codified. It wasn't penned. It wasn't written down until Judah Hanasi, Judah the Prince, codified it like 250 AD.
Read Bruce, please.
So I clearly said on Berean's broadcast that the Talmud was wicked. In addition, I said that you can use the Talmud for use of history, culture as used during this time. Okay, Bruce. The thing is, I don't think.
Okay,
yeah,
you cleared it up.
Yeah, that's what he said on the video. But the thing is, what he's using the Talmud for, the author is saying that this is this crazy stuff. This is delusions of rabbis who are just trying to talk bad about the Edomites, right? They're fables, he called them. And the thing is, even if you believe the Talmud, just say you read the Talmud and you believe some of it. It's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay to read other books, but you can't in one hand call the Talmud wicked, and then most of the things you are affirming are from the Talmud. It's crazy, Bruce. I don't know if you noticed this, but in that video that you shared of Benaiah, the 2 sources. Oh yeah. Go. Is this? No, this one's actually his. But go ahead and play it. You'll see how he doesn't even read that first paragraph. And please, since Bruce is here right now too, whenever he starts to read it, Benaiah is not going to read this first paragraph. Can you go ahead and read it for everybody here right now, so we don't have to go through my video again?
Yeah, I got you. That's what. Yeah, because that's the whole thing with the Talmud. It has to be cleared up because on one hand, folks are saying using it to bash, but
he said some of it is good.
Yeah, but that's where it has to be cleared up because we have to have a little nuance. And because the whole standpoint, how you gonna say it's bad if you then you go ahead on the back and you teach on the Talmud? Because where do some of these traditions come from these folks? They'll say the spirit, but if we can find in the Talmud, is that the spirit? Who's really teaching? Did he just passed Arya, because did a lot of these cats, where are they getting it from? Are they getting it from Freemasons? Are they getting it from Talmud and rabbis? Are they getting this from Noah Drew Ali and that kind of stuff? 5%ers, nation. You know what I'm saying? Where, if we can trace the doctrine to these sources, what do we do then?
That's beef, especially if camps or somebody using Talmud, YouTubers are using it and they making it sound like it come from them wicked ones and those light-skinned people. I don't know. That's something I gotta ask. Who wrote the Talmud?
Yeah. So going back to Noah Jolie, the only people I've ever heard, the first people I've ever heard say Afro-Asiatic, that's from Noah Drew Ali, the Moors.
Mm-hmm.
So if folks are carrying on that same terminology, I don't know. It doesn't seem as original or as inspired as folks are making it to be. Noah Joel Lee back to school of Hillel the Elder. So even if Noah Joel Lee is back in those schools, so it seems like there's been always Jewish thought has been permeating in the black community.
And if it's the light skin, I'm gonna be quiet. So everybody, they all black Israelite. They all black Israelites that wrote that Talmud. Maimonides was black, King James was black, everybody was black. Everybody that's important in Israel or Jew or whatever, they all just one people. Go ahead, read some of that.
Yo, Berean, real quick. I sent somebody a video earlier today, and it was talking about some white dude went into a Hebrew Israelite school back in the day, a news interview, and it's crazy because Ariel was sitting right next to the guy speaking, and he was asking him historical figures, right? So he was like Beethoven. Dusen.
Yes. Oh, that was ISUPK. Yes, that was ISUPK. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, he says Shakespeare, undoubtedly black.
And I think that's the leak over in the black Hebrew Israelite community from the conscious community, Afrocentric. They making everybody black. Go ahead, Dunamis. Type one of y'all hear that clearly.
Only did writers know that the children of the rebellious house of Judah were sent into slavery and were scattered to the four corners of the earth. They also knew who held the children of Judah captive. And for that, let's read a quick reference from Modern Judaism from a book that was written in the 1800s. And it reads, first, that
so that's Kobe's point. Yeah, he starts right here. He starts right here at first. But he skips over this whole paragraph.
Bruce, pay attention. This part's for you right here. You want to read it, Dunamis, or you want me to read it?
Let me read it. Esau's descendants are the subject of extensive traditions in which the rabbis, with an infertory act, so they didn't like them, vehemently, which we should wonder in any other men, have set at defiance all authentic history and accurate chronology. So what's that line saying, Kobe?
Yeah, so basically what that means is they have set at defiance all authentic history and accurate chronology. That means they didn't care about the actual truth of history and the order in which they took place. They had defiance against all authentic history and accurate chronology. And then Bruce, look at him. Look at him. Covi, don't you dare slam my brother Benaiah Israel without the proper context of what Benaiah was teaching in his series. Secondly, don't talk about my brother Benaiah Israel. You deal with me. I'm dealing with both of y'all because both of y'all started at the second paragraph that says first that the descendants of Esau sworn blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, neither one of you read the first paragraph, which is basically saying that everything he's about to read is crazy. He's just showing examples of how absurd some of their ideas were. And you can see it in the next line. It said, these representations, the fallacy of which will be too obvious to require being pointed out. He's saying it's so just obnoxiously crazy that only weirdos would think it's true. And then here are you and Benaiah thinking it's true. Y'all didn't even read the first paragraph that says everything he's about to say it's crazy, but he's just going to let y'all know. How can you trust somebody like that, Bruce? How is that person your brother?
Even the next line, these representatives, the fallacy of which will be too obvious to require being pointed out, may be briefly compared under the following heads. So he said, even the author is saying this is obvious that this is crazy, these are fallacious. So I don't know. Maybe he just missed it. You know, sometimes he read too fast or something. Maybe.
And that's what I'm saying. You can't blame Bruce 100% because he's just a follower, right? He's not a leader in the game. Benaiah is a leader in the game. So let's exclude Benaiah. As Bruce said, right? Let's not deal with Benaiah. So let's deal with Bruce now. Maybe he just didn't know. So now, Bruce, we're all going to read it together. We're all going to read it together. Listen, Bruce, listen. You started at first that the descendants of Esau. I'm going to go back up to the paragraph prior. And it's telling you that the rabbis had an effrontery. That effrontery means like a rudeness towards this group of people. And he's saying that all the other people that associate with them, they should be questioned too, because they all can't get together. Then he says that they have all set at defiance all authentic history and accurate chronology. That means they didn't care about any of that, because their hatred for the Edomites was so powerful that they didn't care if they actually used the sources the way they were intended to be used. They're just going to use them how they want to. And then this is just the killer for you, Bruce. It says, I'm going to give you 2 examples of these crazy theories. And they're so crazy that it's just obvious that I don't even have to point out which parts are crazy. It should just be obvious to everybody. So now, Bruce, Benaiah is one thing. He's not here. Forget him. You are here. Now that you know what it says, what are you going to do about it, Bruce?
We're going to be a little behind, but if this source ain't saying what it's saying, hold on, let me see something real quick. While we're on that, let me look at the comment section.
Yeah, I went to their comment section. It's a lot of people that cried and were thankful to have their eyes opened, and because I was like, someone had to have paused it and read that first paragraph. At least one person should have paused it to read that first paragraph.
Someone said put on DVDs. So there's no one that says that a thorough scholarly effort or for the best video.
Not my internet more. Hey, Landon, what do you think it says, man? Because I've explained it a few times. Everybody seems to agree. How are you trying to spin it to make it to where he's not a bad guy? How are you trying to? What do you think it says?
And oh my God, I'm having flashback to Ron. Not Ron. What's the guy that wrote that book? Ron Dalton.
You talking about the one with no footnotes?
Yeah.
This is oh yeah. Same thing.
I'm having flashbacks to where it's like, and no one's saying that. We're just watching this part. No one's saying the other part's right, but no one's going to point out that this is off.
And then the thing too, at least this book has footnotes, right? But the thing is, it seems that no one checks the footnotes, because at the bottom of that page where he gets this source, that source was also from rabbinic teachings, the Talmud, and other mystical writings of the Jews. So, like, in one hand, Bruce and others like him are saying the Talmud is wicked, but on the other, they're repeating and regurgitating the information that's in the Talmud.
And it's not even from a standpoint of just historical. This is theology. This is the beliefs. You know what I'm saying? This ain't just like they believe this. That's why I asked the question, do you believe, for some folks in the chat, do you believe this? This is some folks' theology. How the world works now with Esau. And that comes from rabbinic thought. But yeah, on the other hand, they shoot down the rabbis. But they're in turn, they are being taught by the rabbis.
Mm-hmm.
Hillel,
not the synagogue of Satan, though. Not the synagogue of Satan.
But someone put that earlier, Marine, that the Talmud is the synagogue of Satan. But who's teaching them? This is I don't know.
And I think when I was doing some of my research, that a lot of the oral traditions started to be expounded upon during the Great Assembly, the ones that was composed of Ezra and Nehemiah and Haggai and all those prophets at the time. They comprised the Great Assembly, and they're the ones that really started to formulate not only the weekly Torah portions that were read every week and the traditions concerning that, but they really started to ramp up a lot of these traditions that we see in the Mishnah, and then further on into the Talmud. I mean, there's a reason that Judah the Prince knew what to write. He'd been taught this, and everybody seems to think, I do as well, because I don't think the Talmud was given, or the Mishnah was given at Sinai. I think it came around the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, because they kicked out the Samaritans for worshiping Yah and observing the Torah in a way without the Talmud.
And then I see Jordan asked the question: Who wrote Jasher again? Well, there are two
Jash.
Yeah. You know, I'm gonna say there's two Jashers. One that was a forgery to where the guy got arrested. Another one's written in the 14th century by who? A rabbi.
Yep.
Hold on a minute. No, you know, Bruce, I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you some time to jump on here. Look at read what Bruce said. Well, not now, because I know we're supposed to get on last night or whatever, but you're gonna have your time that you part of the community, you're gonna have your time to speak your piece. Trust me, brother. Go ahead, Dumas, read that.
You better be glad I'm at work. I'm not off work. To show you manipulation, Covi. Do you honestly believe that's the only Jewish source who believes this? I'll be back with multiple sources to prove this Jewish belief.
We know it's a Jewish belief, Bruce. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's a Jewish belief because they did not believe in Christ. And that's why they called Christians who believed in Christ Edom or Esau, because it's symbolic of those who are heathens, right? Those who don't abide by Jewish law. That's why the Jews called Christians Edom, because they didn't worship Yah the way they thought they should. And the thing is this, so what if you got a million other sources, Bruce? So what? The thing is, you pulled up this one, and I'm telling you that both you and Benaiah used this wrong. How are you going to still sit there and say, I got other sources? Like, so what? What about this one? And why should we believe anything else you say if you didn't even read this? I read this whole book. The whole book is a critique of the Talmudic teachings. That's why every footnote in this book is in a reference to some Talmudic literature. All of it. Even that one down there at the bottom right now that you see, it's from Talmudic literature. Everything sourced in this book is from the Talmud. And the author, who is a Christian, is critiquing and denouncing all of it and saying how crazy it is. But yet here come you and Benaiah using it.
Now, so like Bruce, in the court of law.
But do Benaiah shoot down the light-skinned people? Do he shoot down Talmud? I don't really listen to, I play a document on, some little clips here and there, but I don't really listen to him like that. Do he shoot down them people? Do he believe they're fake too? I know most Israelites do. Do he believe they're fake?
Go
ahead. I'm throwing it out there for everybody.
I'm not too sure. I know there was some issues though with that the orphans of Portugal. The paper that I sent you.
Oh yes. Yeah.
I think I even saw Garfield expound upon that, and man, yeah.
Oh, they're saying he does, but Bruce, in a court of law, if this was evidence, would a judge allow this to be kept in the records, or would it be thrown out? In a court of law, would this witness be allowed to be kept in the records? So what the heck are you talking about? Yeah, but 99 and 100. Oh, wow, I didn't know. So that's the whole thing. Would the DA allow you to present this as evidence, or would this go against your case?
But this is just one. Benaiah got a large body of work out here. This is just one charge, though.
Yeah, but Marine, even though it's one charge, it's just that will we allow this charge to stand? You know what I'm saying? Even if his whole argument is right, the source has it being used to support the argument has to be thrown out.
I hope this is. Go ahead, read that.
Well, I was just gonna say too, like, this is one part of the book, and I know Bruce didn't watch this video from the beginning or see my presentation, but Bruce, also in this book, about 20 pages later, it shows the location of the lost tribes, and none of them say America. Is that true too?
This was the entire point of what Benaiah Israel was saying.
So Benaiah Israel is saying that maybe we slow. Maybe the thing was we heard it wrong.
I know I'm slow. I say I'm slow. Go ahead.
Because so he's saying that, is he trying to say that this is what Jews believe about Esau? Because everything he's saying with the prophets, all that kind of stuff. Bruce, I've heard you say that.
Yeah, Bruce was happy about it. Wasn't Bruce happy about it whenever Elder Green was going off with him too? Bruce was like, "Yep, this is what's going to happen," and everything that he read from where it says secondly onward concerning Edom, Bruce was all for this. But in the first paragraph of this section, it says that everything he's saying right here is crazy delusional thoughts of some weirdo rabbis who stick to Talmudic traditions. And then this is just an example of that crazy thought. So in a sense, it's equating the crazy thoughts of these Talmudic rabbis with Bruce's train of thought. Like they're one and the same. So if the Talmud and these rabbis are wicked, logic says that Bruce is also wicked. I don't know.
Go ahead, play. I don't know why you got to the point you want to play.
No, we ready, but I'll let it play.
All right.
At the descendants of Esau, the sworn enemies of the descendants of Jacob, even to the end of the world, were at first a small nation, inhabiting Mount Seir and the adjacent country, contiguous to the land of Canaan, that they were easily confined within their own limits, as long as the Israelites enjoyed a great and formidable empire in Canaan. But that after the powerful republic of the 12 tribes was destroyed by the Assyrians and the Babylonians, they wonderfully increased in numbers and strength, extended their dominion towards the west, spread their colonies far and wide, subjugated Italy, founded Rome and the Roman Empire, at length entirely overturned the Jewish state, which had been restored after the termination of the Babylonian captivity. The second temple being destroyed by Titus Vespasian, and that in the present day, professing the religion of Jesus of Nazareth, which they were the first of all nations to embrace. They hold the dominion over all Europe. Esau detaining in captivity his brother Jacob, at least as far as regards the tribe of Judah, till his Messiah, Ben David or Yeshua, shall appear. So during the time of the 1800s, these writers wrote that the descendants of Esau detained in captivity his brother Jacob, at least as far as regards the tribe of Judah. And just to read a little bit more, it reads, secondly, that the prophecies of the prophets against Esau, Edom, Seir, and the cities of Edom, especially those of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Obadiah, have not yet received their full accomplishment, for that thou, the house of Esau, has experienced some particular judgments of God on account of the injuries at different periods of time and afflicted upon Israel. Yet the final vengeance on account of that last and greatest injury, the destruction of the second temple by Titus, and listen, the transportation of the Jews into captivity, in which they are still most opprobriously detained, is yet impending over it, to be executed in the time of the Messiah. All right. Well, as you can see, this reference points to the Jews being in captivity to Esau, and according to the scriptures, that they would remain in captivity or in the land of their captivity until the Messiah returns. Deuteronomy chapter.
So Lynn Hunter, she asked a question. Lynn asked a question. What is he saying? Is he saying you all believe rabbis and are Jews, and then they are saying the same thing Israelites say? No, it sounds like he thinks the book is saying that it's false. No, from the tone he had, it sounds like he was saying an agreement. Hold on, even that last line, because now he's going to go into Deuteronomy.
Yeah, and the thing I wanted to show again, because I know some people came in late, they didn't see the beginning of the video, but the middle part of this slide, that's the page that Benaiah was reading, and he stopped at the bottom. the next page is the continuation of that, and it continues to go on about the judgments concerning Edom. Now, again, all this writing, the source for this writing is underneath in the footnote, and everything in those footnotes are Talmudic sources. Now, what's interesting about this is that the author wrote this down, but is using information from the Talmud, right? In the beginning, the author already states that he denounces the Talmud and all that stuff. He's a Christian. He's just showing some of the crazier things that the Talmud makes mention of. Now, again, this is all the Talmudic sources. I want to go to this one a little bit. Where was it at? Where was it? That was this the beginning of it? This was the beginning of it. It's really
yeah.
it's really
Hold
hard.
on. Yeah. Later. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you now. Yeah.
Yeah, this one right here.
Yeah. My
Now,
bad. My bad.
this is
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
This is the beginning of the chapter of where Bruce started reading. Again, if you look underneath it, it says chapter 12, and then it says all these things, and then at the very last part, it says Esau's descendants. I don't know if you can see that. I know it's a little bit small, but it says Esau's descendants. Now, this is how the chapter starts out. Pay attention, please. This is how the chapter starts out that eventually gets to talking about Esau's descendants. It's a small for me. I'm going to try to read it, though. It says, the traditions concerning persons mentioned in the Old Testament are numerous and extensive. The alterations and enlargements of the scriptural narratives and the entire additions manufactured by the fertile inventions of the rabbis would fill volumes. Now, listen to this. It's very important. This, or the present chapter, that means this chapter, chapter 12, the present chapter will exhibit a few specimens of these fables. He's telling you that he's about to go into some of these fables, which are not real stories, but that the rabbis made up. And then it goes on to talk about those stories about the Edomites and how they're and their judgment and how it hasn't been fulfilled yet. So again, that's 2 times in the same chapter where the author is saying that everything he's about to say is crazy. I'm giving you examples of some of these crazy things. You get it?
Yeah. So it's like, but Covi, so what do we do if the sources that he's using, if the Talmud agrees with a lot of talking points we hear, what do we do then?
Just admit that you're into Talmudic doctrine. You know what I mean? But and that's okay. You know, just as long as you don't affirm the things that speak on the negativity of the Messiah or Jesus, not their versions of Messiahs, but you know, Jesus. That's where we can draw the line and the distinction. But everything else was just what they've been taught. You know what I mean? So a lot of the talking points that we hear from some of the Israelites who are called or considered researchers are from the Talmud and from Jewish writings, because they are the ones who have a bone to pick with Christians, and they consider Christians to be Edom. So it just makes logical sense for them to use a lot of their sources because they're going against what they think they're going against. But the thing is, it's just an interesting paradox, because the sources they're using are coming from the very people they say are wicked and not really Jews. So it's an interesting paradox.
Read Dunamis, do me a favor, read this. Look at that, Israel. You see how I pull stuff up without a super chat? I still pull it up to put it on the floor.
Yeah. Bruce, don't stress it. I gather Bnei Israel, the common denominator and found in most sources. Yet when people nitpick says source, they can lead to do this, man. Then Dante's source get that also. But hold on now. Oh, whoa. Isn't that the whole point of scholarship? To tear apart something to see how long if it stands? If we don't do that, we send these sources to outsiders, what are they gonna do? So wouldn't we best have the best sources, the best information, the best argument torn up internally, then present to outsiders so they can see how strong it is? That's the whole thing. Because the argument I had with Dante's source was, did it say Anglican women or Angolan women by the mixed kid? That was one issue, one of the sources. So then what do
Oh, I
we do?
thought they was talking about something about the guy being racist and why he was using a racist source from the 1800s.
Never mind. No, I think that was Cherry, and then they brought that up. But that's not an argument. But still, if we're looking at the source and the scholar source is saying something, or the author has an interpretation why he's saying certain things, we have to be mindful of what's going on. That's why to just pump out documentary after documentary, it serves a purpose, but in the long run it hurts because are we really vetting these things that we're saying?
Or you piecing it together real fast or too fast just to drop information.
Yeah, and we can't just say, oh, it was a mistake, but then is there retraction? Or there folks in the comments saying, hey, bro, I like the video, everything you said was strong except for this one point that social use, I don't think that's right and exact. That's the whole thing.
You know, that's kind of my beef with all this and how it eventually comes down to source versus source. So for the record, Bruce and Benaiah called this book a source. To me, this is not a source. I couldn't put this and use this as a source in any of my papers for school. They wouldn't accept it because it's not academically written. Dunamis put it in a good way. It's sort of like a guy is reading the Talmud and blogging about it at the same time and saying this is all the crazy stuff. It's not academic and it's not a source. It's just something somebody wrote. I think it would be beneficial at some point for someone to maybe do a video on the differences between primary, secondary sources, and then everything else. I like to deal with primaries and secondaries only, because after that, it's like this guy of this book we were reading. It's just some guy who looked at some primary sources, like the Talmud would be considered a primary source or at least a secondary source for its time, because it was contemporary with the ongoings of this point in history. So he's writing on a primary or secondary source. He can make up and interpret it any way that he sees fit. So if we look at writings from the 1800s, the 1700s, or 1900, what have you, it really doesn't matter. It's just people's kind of opinions or interpretations of what they saw in the primaries. When people bring up sources, it should really only be primary or secondary sources. That's it. And that's why you follow and chase footnotes. And that's my favorite part of reading. I don't even really read too much of the author's writings. I follow his footnotes, because from the footnote, you chase down that footnote and you see that author's
research.
book, and then that author, he's going to cite some stuff on how he came up with that, and you look at that one, and eventually it'll lead you all the way back to the secondary and primary sources. That is what scholarship is.
All right, here he is. All right, now y'all let my man get some time in now. Come on, don't do me a favor, Bruce. It's gonna be hard for you, but do not talk about the Roman Catholic Church, and please do not say Eurocentric Christianity. You got the floor. I'm mute myself.
Hey, I'm on the target. So, Covi, I will be back on to show the error of your ways, because you're manipulating the source that Benaiah gave, and the main point that Benaiah and myself was making. And so I'll be back on to show other credible sources to show that this what Jewish scholars believe, this what Jewish writers believe. And that was the whole point, what Benaiah was bringing out and myself was bringing out, that Esau is Rome, and Esau is the progenitor or the originator of these heresies that has infiltrated the Christian church. So I'll be back on right now, but I got a target right now, and he's not black, he's a white man. So you can stop all that putting black Israelites in there.
I never said black, I said Israelites. I don't believe Israelites are just black.
And you know our position is Israelites are black, so you were talking about black Sidonian tribe.
No, I don't hold your position.
Yeah, okay, exactly. So anyway, yeah, it's plenty of Jewish sources.
And what did you think of that first paragraph, though?
It doesn't matter. The point was what Benaiah was making And I was making that Jews believe that. And that no matter, you don't want to call it a source is a source just because it doesn't fit your category as a
A
source.
source is not a source.
Oh, yes, it is. Just because it doesn't fit your source or what you believe or what you've been indoctrinated in seminary, because I've been in seminary. And
What
lastly,
seminary?
and hold on. No,
What
you
seminary?
the one said that you been searching because
I'm trying. Yeah.
no, you the one said on this live broadcast
Mhm.
that you've been searching and you can't find my credentials. Well, obviously you're a poor investigator, which something that I
I'm a
do.
poor investigator. You
Well,
couldn't even read the
wait
first
a minute.
paragraph of the paper.
I'm not done. Well, obviously you're a poor investigator because if you looked, you will find it. So anyway, I'll be back to show other sources.
Did you
And
graduate, Bruce? Seminary?
I will be back to show other sources.
That's why I can't find you, because you didn't graduate seminary, did you? Maybe took a couple of classes?
Yeah, okay, you're right.
Yeah, maybe one or two, probably then, right?
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I already mentioned it before. The problem is you just been indoctrinated with Eurocentric Christianity, and that's
And you've
why
been
you're
indoctrinated
so
with
blind.
I just told him don't say he couldn't help it. Somebody
Yeah.
said go ahead and say it one
Anyway,
time. I just said I knew he couldn't.
leave Benaiah Israel out of it. This is between you and I.
He's been through enough. Leave Benaiah alone.
Yeah,
Oh my God, get out of here. And you have
exactly.
Bruce?
Because Benaiah Israel sources will eat up what you postulate
You
on
mean
this
that the source
broadcast.
that just said that everything that he read
And
is
that
about
one,
to be
because you refuse to look at the context in which he was using and the context where I was
What does
using.
context
Because
mean?
the whole entire point was that Jews believe that. That author said it's false, but that's what people believe.
Bruce, didn't you say the
Period.
author was Jewish?
It doesn't matter what I'm just saying. The
No,
point
but
is
you
he was
said
the point.
you said the author was Jewish. In the preface of the book, it says that he's a Christian. Then also you said that many scholars use that source. And I looked on it in Google Scholar, and only 4 people have sourced that book.
The point is that's
You're wrong
what
on everything.
Jewish people and scholars believe in their writing. So
No
I'll leave
scholars
it like
believe
that.
that. No scholars believe that. I looked
Oh
it up.
yes,
Only
they do.
No, they
And
don't.
Jewish writers, yes, they do.
What? Name one. Name one that used that book as a source.
All right, I gotta go, y'all. But yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Man,
I think like Covi said, when you go look on Google Scholar and you pull up certain words, I can see peer-reviewed articles. I can see some stuff on almost any subject that scholars been writing on. That's how come that's the beast that jumped off with a boo before when it was talking about that other scholar. I hate to even bring up the cats thing, but that scholar, if you're a scholar in America, if you're a scholar in Israel and you writing peer-reviewed works, you it's published in journals, it's somewhere, it's going to come up on this internet. It's going to come up on this internet. You wrote a dissertation, it's going to come up on this internet. If it's a legit school and it's articles or anything that's written, it's gonna come up on the internet. So I don't know. Go ahead.
No, but that goes into a point about because folks are saying, I know somebody has someone nitpicking out and stuff. This is why scholarship takes years. You know what I'm saying? If we even recognize even someone to talk on a matter to teach it. To let alone
Y'all just hate the fact Israel is black, and y'all got that white man in your mind so deep. Y'all just hate the fact Israel black, and you fighting for the white. You don't know you fighting for the white man, but you fighting for the white man, Covi. What would you say to that?
I don't know. I don't really know a whole lot of white people, and I don't really fight for anybody anymore. So I mean, I guess I don't know if fighting for the white man means that I take my time. Like you said, things take a lot of time. I spent all day reading through that book, the whole book, not just one page, the whole book. And I was like live chatting y'all the whole time, letting y'all know what I found. Benaiah and Bruce, Benaiah and boyfriend Bruce, they looked at one page and ran with it, not knowing that the opening paragraph says that everything they're about to say is just made up crazy stuff. So that's the difference between YouTube scholarship and actual academic scholarship. It takes a long time to read through these things, a long time. And something that really trips me out is like, this is my job. You know what I mean? Like, I get paid to work in a seminary and research all day. Not only do I do that, but I get out of work and then I'm here, kicking it with y'all, talking more theology. But this is my job. I'm curious as to how people like Bruce, who is supposed to be on the job protecting and serving, how he has time to do this kind of research that he says that he does. I am starting to think that a lot of people, their research is putting in headphones and watching videos from their handlers. Because this takes time, so much time. And the more you learn, the more you realize that you just don't know. I don't really say that I am for sure on a lot of things anymore because I've just been exposed to so many different valid ways of viewing things. It's just ridiculous to say that anybody has the absolute truth. You know what I mean? I just like to present all angles. It just so happens to be that a majority of the doctrines that we hear from a lot of the Israelite leaders are just, those are pretty much heretical in a sense. If just the Jews hold them, isn't that a cause for concern? Like, we believe in Jesus, right? We believe in Jesus. We are supposed to disavow and excommunicate people that don't, right? Now, I understand scholarship is not one to be biased, so you look at all sources, but then to say that that we're still gonna hold on to the teachings of it. I'm not saying read it and learn from it to come against it, but to hold on to the teachings of it, that's antichrist. Christ is against that. And he's saying Esau is Rome. And you know what? The Jews who don't believe in Jesus believe that. Yes, Bruce, you are putting yourself in the same position as Jews who don't believe in Jesus.
Go ahead, Dunamis.
Yeah. And that's where now, and even the whole thing with the source too, if we're just doing keyword searches towards certain things, if that's the case being done, not for everything, but for certain folks or certain examples, and there you go, Bruce, Esau is Rome. But Bruce, even with that, where do you get that from? The rabbis. So it's like you're dealing with not, oh my God, Bruce, it's like you're dealing with the unbelievers. You're standing with the unbelievers in their viewpoint. They don't even believe the Messiah came. So if Bruce, if you get this whole Esau is Rome and that kind of stuff from rabbinic thought, who's really who's leading you, Bruce? Is your rabbi Jesus with the spirit of Yah? Or is your rabbi those who come in the Talmud and those who write certain apocrypha and certain books?
You know, I think this may be the disconnect, because the way he says this, I'm starting to believe this. So I didn't watch the entirety of Dante's, or not. Oh man, I said his name. He's gonna pop up. I didn't watch the entirety of Benaya's video. I only cared about what was brought up on Berean, because this is my community. You know what I mean? I don't care what they do over there. The fact is, the video was brought up here. Now, maybe in the video, it is just a video about what Jews believe, right? Maybe. And that's what Bruce is saying. That's the whole point. It's just talking about what Jews believe. Not that they agree with it, just that the Jews believe. If that's it, then I'm okay with that. I just don't understand, if that's the point, why is Bruce affirming all of it? Because nobody who believes in Christ believes that stuff. Well, I mean, can't say that on Berean TV, I guess, but if you believe in Christ, that whole Edom, Esau thing is totally different. Miss Covi, that's the whole point. Yeah, I know, and that's what I'm saying. But the thing is, if you were just studying that source to provide evidence of what Jews believe, why are you agreeing with it? That's
just because it's a historical part, not a theological position. He's just using that for history to prove who Esau is. Somebody else said it's Obadiah scholarship earlier up. Rome is Eastern. Read that right there, Covi.
Rome is Eastern and Western Europe. Esau are the people who took the land, as the Bible says. Esau took the land. Okay, so this is something that I don't know if Landon was here at the time, but this is something that me and Jordan were kind of getting into, right? I believe that the Idumeans died out with Drusilla in 79 AD. If Esau is still a problem, can anybody name me one Edomite? If Esau is Rome, are all white people over here Romans? How about this? If Esau is Rome, what about, like Elder Green said, what about the believers in Rome? Are they still Esau? Because
That's a
Esau
good
is
question.
Rome, Eurocentric Christianity, the European nations. Yo, that just sounds like he has like keywords. I don't know if you remember, but who made that last song? For you remember that Fast and the Furious movie where that dude Brian died, and like so the next one they made like a tribute song to him. I think it was Wiz Khalifa, right? So he made that song for the movie, like a soundtrack or whatever. And they told him that whenever he had to make this song, there were like certain words that he had to use over and over to have like a Fast and Furious feel. He had to keep using loyalty, and he had to keep using family, and he had to keep using things like that, right? Just so we can, you know what I mean? It could tug at the Fast and Furious fans' heart. It seems like this is what Bruce is doing. Look at this. Rome, Esau, Eurocentric Christianity, European nations. It's man. Do you know how many Jewish people in America identify as white? This is comedy. It's not very funny. I don't get it though. If the Edomites, Idumeans died out, then who are the Edomites in Amos 9, 11 through 12 and Jeremiah 49? Again, I, as well as an overwhelming majority of scholarship, believe that Edom, as well as the Jewish sources, all believe that Edom is now a theological symbol of the ungodly and those that do not follow in the way of Israel, not actual.
Just like church people, y'all, some of y'all know in the black church, just like church people say, oh, you got a Jezebel spirit. Well,
Yeah,
you Jezebel. Jezebel was a real person, like Edom was real people. They just looking at it as Edom is symbolic of, just like they were doing wickedness back then, they're symbolic of people being wicked today. Just like you would call someone or somebody would say, oh, that girl's a Jezebel. Yeah, grandma, y'all aunties and them saying that. That's what he's saying. Go ahead, brother.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And from that source, quote unquote source that Bruce used, it said the same thing. It said Edom is Rome and Christianity. Edom can't be all of Rome, and it can't be all of Christianity. So we have problems.
So you could read of some of the bad stuff that happened back in the 17, 15, 14, 1300s with the Catholic Church and say, yeah, that's the and stuff that they were doing and be like, yeah, that's Esau right there. They spiritually Esau. But fervent charity them are saying if there's physical Israelites alive, it got to be physical Esau alive because there's passages and scriptures that's not fulfilled yet, so they have to be a real people for those scriptures to be fulfilled. Type of one, is that correct, fervent charity?
I could see. I know that's his position, right? And I'm okay with that. Just that in itself. But the fact is that interpretation of who Esau is influences a lot of his other theology, and that's when it kind of becomes an issue for me. But at the same time, man, I don't know those people over there in the land. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really want to fight for them either. I'm just looking for what can be proven, and what can be proven is just that a majority of them died out. People keep saying there's more Idumeans, yet no one knows any names, and just things like that. You know what I mean? But overall, you're right. They could be real, or they could be physical people, or they could be a theological construct, and neither one of us actually know. But it's just what you do with that. You know what I mean? What you do with that information that makes it a little bit dangerous.
Go ahead, Dumas. You see anything in the comment section you want to address before we get out of here? I'm glad you came on and you got to share that. And Bruce is definitely gonna want to jump on and share some stuff. Do anybody have any last questions? Dumas, you fell asleep?
Yeah, I think you fell asleep. I want to tell everybody in the comment section whether you agreed with me or whether you didn't agree with me. This was fun to me. I'm a academic. You know, I work in a seminary. I love reading. I love chasing down these leads. If there's something that you think of that you want to know more about, let me know, and I would love to put sort of a presentation like I did together for you in any subject. You know what I mean? Because I just like to follow the evidence where it lies. Me and a couple of other people have been doing this in the background, and we got some stuff together, and I've always wanted to actually do it, but it's just really hard to find time. I would love to do more things like this and just put the video out, say the information without being cut off because it's a video, and then we can all talk about it. Whatever it is, let me know. I'm glad to look into anything.
You got a email for stuff like this for people that may want to ask about some sources or whatever you use to get the conclusion you did today, or other stuff that may have any other questions, maybe even off this subject?
Yeah, I just put my my email in the chat, and I always say this too. I'm putting together a theological library from not only, I think I have about 15,000 ebooks that are in there, but I also have about 2,000 books and sources on logos that, you know, I probably maybe shouldn't be doing it, but I copy and paste a lot of things, and then I put them in that folder as well. So even though it might not be as pretty as logos, all the information's there. Not only that, but Logos offers courses on what's called mobile ed. Now, these courses range anywhere from like 100 to like 400 bucks. I'm buying those sources too, or I'm buying those courses too. I'm getting all that information and also putting that out there. Mind you, all this is for free. You're never going to hear me asking for y'all to pay for this stuff for me. This is just what I love to do. I'm trying to tell you that more than any of these theological opinions or what have you, I like the research aspect of it. It's so fun. So if any of y'all want some sources, if y'all want to get into this game with me and a couple other people and just, you know, just bang some stuff out and come up with some educated opinions. That's my thing. Not Bruce opinions, but educated opinions, man, let's make it happen. I would love to. My email's there. I'll give some of y'all access if y'all want, maybe if y'all cool people, to that drive with all this information, and you know, we'll make our community smarter. We don't got to be a bunch of dummies over here, man. Let's change the narrative.
Come on, Dunamis. Maybe he did doze off. Let me see. Hold on, let me check. Yeah, maybe he did.
Yeah, he's out. I'm about to go crash out too, man. It's 1.
Yeah. Read Bruce before you get out of here.
Okay, Covi, stop manipulating and deceiving the people from your Eurocentric seminaries. All right, man. It's actually an American seminary. We're here in America. Maybe Amerocentric? You can start saying that, Bruce, Amerocentric. I don't know that anybody knows anything from Europe, you know? Just go with Amerocentric.
All right, y'all. Appreciate you, brother, jumping on here. We're gonna definitely pick this up. I guess Dunamis, I guess he did knock out. All right, Covi, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Sir, I'll hold y'all later.
All right, y'all. Y'all heard it. We're gonna go in. We're gonna pick up. We're gonna pick up. And all we want to do is just examine all this information. This isn't that right there isn't to stop no awakening. That one thing there can't change our mind on what y'all believe, but we're just examining some things. Y'all got any information that y'all want to share? BereanTeach@gmail.com. Who said let us take ourselves? All right, he going. I guess that was somebody else. That was for him. Yeah, let me put that up. Let me put that up there again. Appreciate you. Robert M said good on live. Night, Sister Davis. $$ Berean Teach if y'all wanna send us $1. $ Berean Teach. We appreciate y'all. All right, Fervent Charity. All right, Bruce. Maybe you and Fervent Charity can get on and try to clear some of this stuff up. Good night, y'all.